Hello again, friends! And you are our friends, and welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru right here. I hit the wrong note. Wherever you may find us, wherever you may be, it is another nice day here at Last Manor. I'm sure we'll find out what kind of day it is down in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm your host, the great Brian Last, and here he is in Louisville, the leader of the cult of Cornette, Mr. Jim Cornette.
How can you tell you hit the wrong note?
It was this instead of this.
Yeah, I see. I'm not.
It was like this instead of this.
Yeah. Well, how about this instead of that? And
hey,
the fingers I'm holding up will
put that away?
Direct you to. Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to turn this thing down.
That's kind of rude.
Anyway, I can't hardly tell what time it is. I've got a clock here that is malfunctioning. Well, it just when I picked it up and set it down, it malfunctioned worse. Now it says it's 12:10. But only half of the one is showing. It's not 12:10, by the way. See what happened?
What did it say before that? That's an extra malfunction.
Well, it looked like it said 12:20, but it's not 12:20. See, here's what the problem is. The little bitty tiny teensy weensy time indicator on the computer screen is so tiny that I can't see it unless I'm only a couple of feet from the screen. So I got me a good old-fashioned, well, now it just kind of went out. A good old-fashioned digital clock that I got here on my desk because I always need to know what time it is. That's one of my picadillos. I need to know what time. I'm not late for anything. I haven't forgotten anything, whatever. I got to keep aware of the time. So I have the time that I can see from a number of feet away, but it's because of the LED digital numbers, they're incomplete now. You have to kind of guess. And it don't look too good. That's why I almost was late for this, because I thought it was 30 minutes before it was. Does that make any sense to you, Brian? What kind of clock apparatus do you have up there?
Up where? Up in the Northeast or here in the office or where? Where are you talking about?
In your office, in your spacious Arcadian Vanguard suite of offices there in Teterboro.
Well, it's not Teterboro, and you know I fly out of Morristown, not Teterboro, but of course I have my monitors in front of me. Both computer monitors in front of me have the time on them. To the left, I have a ticker that goes with various stocks on it. That also gives me the time. I also have another ticker that just gives me information and various things. That also has the time on there.
Various things.
I have my phone on my right side. I can click that at any point or actually just touch the screen and get the time there. In the bedroom, on my nightstand, I have my grandfather's digital alarm clock from Sony. From 1980. And it still works and it still runs and it still makes the most obnoxiously loud noise to wake you up. And I'm going to ride that thing until it dies.
But you got something with big enough numbers that you can see without having to go and squint and lean over the thing. That's where I was going with that. Yeah, I've got to get a new one.
Yeah. New eyes or new clock?
No, new clock.
Oh.
I'm not having my eyes or my brain or my spleen or anything like that transplanted is what I'm trying to say. Or exchanged or whatever.
What about if there was a way, and I think they're working on stuff like this, to capture what is in your brain at this moment so that you can have your brain put into some sort of thing in the future, and it would it would be where you are at this moment right now. Anything that happens after this point would obviously be a different memory that wouldn't be in that memory bank. I don't know what we're talking about, folks.
Where did you hear this?
I think Elon Musk, it's one of the things he's working on, actually.
He wires you up and it puts it on a Memorex tape or something?
You know, again, I don't know all the details, but it's the idea of capturing what's in the brain so that if the body dies, the actual brain can continue.
But only to this point. So you'd have to go in every once in a while, like a GPS, you'd have to have it updated every once in a while.
And we're looking into this, ladies and gentlemen, because our commitment to you is Jim Cornette talking about wrestling into the future, past death. So we'll let you know.
Are you trying to get rid of me again? You keep talking about when something happens to me, how will we carry on?
No. We will carry on. We will carry, ladies and gentlemen, don't worry. We will carry on. With the Paul Heyman
I don't want
hour.
people to carry on. If when they hear something has happened to me, I want them to fucking drop to their knees on the spot in fucking grief and start wailing and sobbing to beat the band. I don't want people to be able to carry. I want them to realize what they've lost and that they'll never be able to recover from this. Carry on.
All right. Well, this is your show.
No, it's not. It's your show. But I'll tell you something else. Don't get on the side of me. Don't get sideways with me.
Which side? The left side or the right side? Oh.
You need to be right in the middle. You don't need to get sideways with me. I've had a trying period of time here. And you've known me for a long time. So I want you to testify to the people out there, to the cult of Cornette, to all the listeners, that the stories of my raging temper are they're not exaggerated, but the common misconception is that I just every day are screaming at people and yelling at people and fucking hate everybody and blah, 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 which is not true. It's just that the times that this does come out are so memorable and picturesque that people talk about them and it's like it's a thing. But you know, and when I interact with people out in the public, that I'm unfailingly polite until given a reason not to be. Can you say that you have witnessed this?
I'm afraid to answer.
No, come on now.
You're so mean all the time. I'm afraid on the air you're so nice. I'm afraid to say the wrong thing. Please, what do I do? What do I say?
Help me.
Help me. That's what I need to say. Here. Help me. I need to help me out.
Help me. Call police.
No, you are like the nicest guy I know. Almost too nice at times. And
this is not just at fan fests or autograph sessions, meet and greets or whatever. You've taken us around when we've been up in New York in the past and going into a store, a restaurant, interacting with a shopkeeper, whatever. Right? Except that one bookstore we went into had that goddamn roach. It was as long as my dick. Maybe that's not even talking about how sizable the roach was. It was a giant roach, and I was, let's get the fuck out of here.
Which bookstore did I bring you to? Was it on St. Mark's or was it the Strand?
It had to be on St. It was one of those places in the side. Remember when I said, now, God damn it, all those buildings are connected on that whole side of the street?
Oh, yeah, St. Mark's. It was St. Mark's.
Whole side of the street, everybody's got fucking roaches. And I crossed the street. Remember, am I lying?
No, that's true. For anyone who knows New York City at all, he crossed the side of St. Mark's Place that had St. Mark's Comics, and he went over to the restaurant that the Jumping Bomb Angels opened.
Well, I'll agree with you.
Yeah, for real. That was.
But I was running away from the goddamn roaches. But anyway, I don't go in like, give me this and give me that. I used to be on TV. I'm somebody. I maintain a low profile. I'm unfailingly polite, right, under normal circumstances.
Gigi Allen's brother Merle is on the street selling cassette tapes. It is Jim Cornette running from roaches across the street.
I was trotting. I think my legs were longer. I could outpace them. But anyway.
Very, very hospitable to the common man.
Hospitable to the common people that I meet as I'm wandering about. And it also, you know this to be a fact because we've talked about it. We've talked about sometimes what leads up to it. When I have one of these issues where I go ballistic, it's generally the I can't stands it no more moment where it's been building. I've had lack of sleep, a lot of stress. People been irritating me. I'm a guy, and somebody just gets in the right place, right? We've gone over this. So, over the past couple weeks, and as I've been mentioning on the program, Stace's mother and stepfather came in for a couple-week vacation. She ended up having a medical emergency, had to go to the hospital, spent almost a week there, has come back to the house to recuperate, has to have a medical procedure in a few days, which she's going to have to stay longer than she had originally planned. So we've been having to, she had to get together with her doctor out there and send out some prescriptions for some medicine. And we're dealing with all of that while at the same time, of course, you and I have to watch these programs and do these podcasts because we have a duty to the public. Been doing that, trying to operate Cornette's Collectibles, been doing that, trying to make sure everybody's fed and that Stace's stepfather is somewhat entertained while all this other stuff is going on, been doing that. Pappy's sleep patterns have been disrupted. And you know, I'm a worrier, and with all the extra stuff going on, you know, I'm worried about everybody. And then over the past couple days, Harley Quinn has had one of those spells where she's got the puny tummy, and occasionally there's blasts that come out. And so that, what was it, yesterday morning? All of these things have been happening, and I'm running around. I've already been out to the post office and the bank, and I've come back, and we're getting ready to take Stace's mother over for a doctor's appointment. And I'm getting a place ready to leave Harley, because if we have to leave her inside, I don't want the explosion to take place on the carpet. So she's got a emergency puppy pad area in the bathroom upstairs that she can go and not harm anything. And I'm changing the puppy pad, and we're running to and fro. And Stace is trying to change my father-in-law's plane ticket, because he's got to go back home when they were going to take care of or not change her ticket, his ticket. He's got to go home, take care of the house, but change her mom's ticket while keeping, because they were bought together. It's a goddamn mess, right? A lot of shit going on. People running around like their heads are on fire. And I'm actually carrying a used puppy pad down the stairs, heading out to the garage to throw it in the garbage and change that for Harley so we can get out of there. And I see somebody coming up on the porch. And it's a delivery. And the guy knocks, because he's carrying something. Guy knocks on the door. So I put the puppy pad in the kitchen garbage that I'll take out later. And I turn around and I answer the door. As I open the door, I say, yes, I'm thinking he's going to hand me something. He introduces himself by name. He says, hello, I'm Little Pismo, whatever his name is. Sticks his hand out. So I shake his hand and say, yes, friendliest delivery guy I've ever met. And then he says, I've come all the way from Virginia Beach, Virginia to meet you, Mr. Cornette.
What?
And Brian, that just struck me wrong. Because all the shit that I've been doing, and I'm running around, and we're dealing with dogs pooping on the floor, and my mother-in-law's health issues, and the doctor's appointments, and the running back and forth. And now this guy has showed up on my front porch unannounced from Virginia or wherever the fuck, expecting a goddamn personal meet and greet. And like I said, it hit me wrong. So I said, no. He said, what? No, not cool. I said, what the fuck? Are you fucking kidding me? I said, I got fucking illness in the family. I got a fucking shitty dog puppy pad here. I got a goddamn sick dog. I got shit going on. And I ain't doing goddamn unannounced meet and greets. Get the fuck out of here. And he started looking back and forth like he didn't know whether to wind his ass or scratch his watch. And I come out the door. I said, get the fuck off my porch and get the fuck out of here. And I give him a little shove to get him going in the right direction. He didn't take the bump off the porch. It's only 2 steps anyway. But he got going. And then as I walked out there, Brian, guess where he parked his car?
Where?
He pulled off my street into my driveway and then turned sideways on my grass in between my fence and my mailbox next to the goddamn French drain where all the water comes down when it rains. And I'm thinking, yeah, I said, you motherfucker, you parked on my goddamn grass because the constant battle of the Monroes to keep and now I'm going to have fucking car tracks in my goddamn grass. I said, you motherfucker, you parked I said, you need to be out of here in 15 fucking seconds. And I said, run. And he starts running. But he's running down the walk in front of the house, and he's going to turn left to run down the driveway. I said, no, cut through the yard, motherfucker. You got 10 seconds. I'm going to come down there. If I got tire tracks in my yard, I'm going to take my baseball bat and beat you into fucking jelly. And, of course, I have to get louder because he's running. And then I realized as I'm out on my front walk, shit, I'm in my sock feet. because I didn't have my shoes on in the house and the shoes are at the garage door. So this guy's running, but I'm thinking barefoot. And if I run after him in time to catch him before he gets to his car, I'm going to be toast by the time I get down there, and he'll probably kick the shit out of me. So I'm wondering whether I should go around and get my shoes or not. And here comes Stacy. And look, who's that? I said, that's a motherfucker. It's got 5 seconds to get off the fucking property. And now he's running around the car. I said, don't mark up my lawn, you son of a bitch. And he jumps in the car and he puts it into reverse, and and he almost backs up into an oncoming car. And she said, what? I said, this fucking guy showed up and I said to him, I said, I don't know who the fuck you are, and I don't know you're coming, and you just wander up here, want a goddamn meat. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, what did he expect? You said he had a package in his hand?
Well, it was one of those little backpacks that the young people carry, and he started when he said, I came all the way from Virginia Beach to meet you, and I brought, he was starting to bend over and go for it. That's as far as I let him go. I don't know if it was something he wanted me to sign or something he was going to give me.
You don't know what the fuck that is. You can't let someone say and reach for that bag right in front of you.
Oh, if he'd have put his hand in that bag, I would have fucking kicked him right up under his fucking face would have been right in front of my foot.
That's what
I'd have kicked him up under the goddamn chin.
Oh, yeah.
But nevertheless, then here's the fucking kicker. Because, you know, when this happens, I'm not really paying attention to my surroundings. I'm focused on what I'm screaming at, and things don't register. He's gone. He goes up the road, never to be seen again. And Stacy's like, God, calm down. I said, well, this fucking guy, all this shit we got going on. Your mom's back. He's trying to disturb your mom, whatever. And then I realized, guess what T-shirt he was wearing?
What?
Larry the dog. He was wearing a Larry Talbot T-shirt.
That's a way to sucker you in so he could shoot you. You can't let Mark David Chapman come on your porch and start reaching for shit.
I honestly don't think that he was here for any type of physical mayhem, or he wouldn't have run as fast as he ran when I just started cussing him. But anyway, so if you are out there, pal, you picked a wrong day to go for unsolicited meet and greets over here at the Cornette place. And actually, it's been the wrong 2 weeks. And I'm not upset about doing any of these things because they're necessary things, needs to be done, take care of the family. I'll sleep later on, but I'm not going to have some fucking guy up on my porch asking me to autograph a goddamn trading card or whatever when I'm fixed to take my mother-in-law to the doctor. Did you just decide, hey, I'd like to meet the mayor of Teterboro? I think I'll go over to his house and see if he'll give me an autograph.
No, you go through the proper channels, or you try to, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We've heard stories in the past about fans going too far. I remember an image from maybe 5 years ago or so. Arn Anderson looked like he just woke up signing shit at his front door from some fan that just showed up.
Oh, well, apparently he was more tolerant than I was of a situation like that.
We've heard about fans who, in a lot of ways, stalk the wrestlers at airports, let alone the ones who, with either benign intentions,
or the assholes that want 75 autographed 8x10s they can immediately put up on eBay.
But then there's the people like maybe what the situation was with benign intentions, just poorly thought out. But then also, Sonya Deville had a crazy fan show up at her house to kill her or abuse her, whatever the hell it was.
Abduct or marry, I think.
I mean, it was insanity.
On the table.
Yeah, it was insanity. And, anyone in the public space, you deal with insane, fanatical followers one way or the other. But yeah, you can't just show up at someone's fucking house. You do that here, I'll slice you the fuck up.
And we know you've got the knives from Box of Awesome to prove it.
If Suzanne's family's here, you'll really get fucking sliced up. For real.
Oh boy, when they come in with those scimitars.
Yeah, when they fly in from Colombia, we'll see what happens. No, but seriously, don't, wow. That's crazy to think that someone would be a fan of yours, too.
What?
That someone will be a fan.
You know, somebody's going to clip that audio, right? It's crazy to think somebody'd be a fan of yours.
Well, it's crazy to think a fan of yours, of who Jim Cornette is and what he stands for and what he would or wouldn't probably like, that fan thought it was a good idea to just show up at your doorstep.
And if I had any extra time, I would be returning all the numerous phone calls that I never returned from all of the old friends that I have and I never talk to anymore because I'm too busy doing all of this bullshit and trying to have peaceful, quiet sessions sitting in the backyard feeding the birds or whatever if I get a free minute. But yeah, I don't go to people's houses that I know without them knowing I'm coming in advance and at specifically what time. And I expect there's no such thing as a pop in over here. People that know me know you don't pop in because I'm probably pooped out and in the middle of something else and not receiving, as they used to say in the old South. So anyway, he didn't end up on my fence, but he almost ended up in my fucking septic tank because that would be the closest place to get rid of a body if I'd have had to cudgel him over the head with my baseball bat.
What do you think he had in there? Do you think it was a figure? I mean, what do you think he was?
I think in hindsight, he may have brought me some type of gift to make up for knocking on my fucking door while members of my family have medical emergencies going on.
I came from Virginia Beach to give you my inheritance. Like, you have no idea what he was going to do there.
Well, if it was in this wasn't that big of a bag, so it couldn't have been that much money. And also, by the way, he better not have just driven over here on a whim to knock on my door because that's 700 miles each way. By the way, certainly to God, he had to be here on some other chore or business.
That's insane.
But anyway, I love all of the cult of Cornette, but not when they're knocking on my door at 10 o'clock in the morning with distractions from my chaotic...
It was 10 o'clock in the morning.
It's 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, I mean, I'm up early. I can be ready to cuss people knocking on my door at 7:30.
Still, it's the work week. That's early.
But we had places to go, people to see, and things to do. And I was carrying a fucking messy puppy pad. The fuck?
Maybe it was a paternity suit he was going to hit you with.
No,
That's Crockett territory.
He looked nothing like me.
Oh. What did he look like? What did he look like?
He looked like a fucking guy running, goddamn. I saw more of his asshole and his elbows than I did of his face.
But you saw the Larry. But you saw the Larry Talbot.
I saw the white with the emblem, the wolfish, doggish emblem of Larry in my mind's eye later on when I realized it. But yeah, he was in the 30s. I don't know, my height.
So how do we blame CM Punk for this?
I don't think we can.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we can. I think we go directly to the source, which is this guy's parents, because they must have fucked. No, they must have fucked in a flower bed because he's a bloomin' idiot. Jeez. But anyway, well, listen, we got to cut the show short today because I got to go over to the governor's mansion and talk to Governor Andy Beshear. I hear he's going to be the next vice president. I want to get in good with him. So I'm just going to drop by his house.
Does that bother you, the idea, real quick, I don't want to talk politics too much, but the idea that you have a governor that you like who's doing a good job by all accounts, and he would leave to go be the vice president and basically do nothing, which is what all vice presidents end up doing other than Dick Cheney, but that it leaves Kentucky needing another governor?
Well, and no, here's the thing. I'm glad that they're talking about him. I don't think he's going to be the pick. I don't know whether he would take it because I think he's smart enough. He's again just got reelected last year to 4 more years as governor of Kentucky. Everybody loves the job he's doing. He's like if Beaver Cleaver went to fucking Harvard and became a politician, he's so squeaky clean. His family, his kids. He's a young guy. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't run for president at some point in the future on his own. Maybe the next time that the country needs goddamn bailed out from another Republican fucking administration. It's left us in tatters and ruins and recession like all of them do. He might just get the top spot. And he's young. I don't know how old he is, but he can't be 45, I don't think. Or at least he's well preserved for that. So I think we keep him because we need a goddamn Democrat in the governor's office here to balance the entire rest of the elected officials. Out of maybe 150 of them, I think there's 30 Democrats in the whole fucking state besides the governor underneath him, because it's all the hillbillies from there. But we need him, and then later on he can save the country from another Republican menace.
All right, well, Jim, before we get going with a big agenda, we have a lot of things to talk about here today. Where can the listeners go to get their Jim Cornette action figures and all their other Jim Cornette needs to not show up on your porch and ask to get autographed?
Well, I was going to say, if you want some of my merchandise, just come on over and hop up on the porch, ladies and gentlemen. I'll set up a table and we'll just have a little yard sale. No, you can, in a more orderly fashion, as well as convenience to yourself. If you live as far away as Virginia Beach, just go to JimCornette.com and you can get a variety of things there autographed at inexpensive prices, quality material, the action figures, the Midnight Express tag team action figure sets. There's still some of the 4-packs left. We got all kinds of books, DVDs, photos, potentially an autographed baseball bat with some element of brain matter on the end. All right there at JimCornette.com, with the illustrious Hotchkiss Featherbottom and the whole Featherbottom family handling the fulfillment of same. The Featherbottoms are very fulfilling people, and they'll fulfill you right up. You show them a hole, and they'll fill it. That's the thing about the Featherbottom.
There's an intruder at the castle. Featherbottoms nowhere to be found.
Well, no, the Featherbottoms.
That's
were off
bad
that
help.
Day.
That's bad help.
They were off that day. That one single solitary day. That's why, it's a completely chance occurrence. But that's why I've talked them in, and now they're not going to have any more days off. And they'll sleep in a hammock out back.
All right. Well, a lot of people may have felt like they were sleeping in a hammock watching WWE Raw this past week. Hopefully, we don't fall asleep and go too long. I had it on in the background to refresh myself. Right now, I'm watching this red-hot Sonya Deville, Lyra, I don't remember, Valkyria, I believe.
I think, isn't it, it's Lyric Valedictorian.
I think so. She's all right. She's pretty good. I'll say it now.
She's all right.
I'll say it now because I know there's no way you watch this match. She's pretty good.
Okay, well, with Raw, it's kind of like, oh, Brian, you're too young. When I was a kid, you came home from school, you're a little kid. Yes, you could turn on Presto the Magic Clown, watch the cartoons, Speed Racer, that type of thing. But if you, and before the independent station came on the air in Louisville, you would turn on it, it'd still be soap operas for all the ladies out there, the housewives. The Secret Storm, The Edge of Night, Guiding Light, One Life to Live, General Hospital. That's all it was on daytime television in the 70s was soap operas. And I think they ought to put Raw on Monday through Friday at 1 in the afternoon. Because when last we left the residents of Apple Valley, the widow Ripley was being courted by Dominic Mysterio, son of a poor but proud immigrant goat fucker.
Let's not call Rey Mysterio that. Where the hell did that come from?
I'm saying, well, okay.
A proud goat fucker.
Rhea Ripley's not a widow either, and they don't live in Apple Valley. But for purposes of the goddamn bit and the fucking hyperbole related to comedic effect.
Jesus.
He's fucking goats, and he likes it.
Maybe it's more like Dark Shadows than Ryan's Hope.
There you go, and we're living in Collinwood.
That's right.
But it's the talking and and now they've even got a Saved by the Bell segment. I think that's where they're stealing the material for the Judgment Day back in the clubhouse, the treehouse, whatever. That's Saved by the Bell, isn't it? They're getting the plot lines and the dialogue.
That's right. Waiting for Brandon Tartikoff to show up.
Well, and hopefully nobody will fucking sneeze in his pasta primavera. But now, see, that's a deep one. But anyway, we're going to Green Bay, Wisconsin for the, and I got to be honest with you again. There was a match that I enjoyed like crazy, one that we will talk about here in a second. But elsewise, it's a talking. It's talking from the stars that we want to see talk to the other stars, and I think that's pretty much established by now. But Gunther, and they're all over. The heels have heat with the people, the baby faces, they're cheering, they're chanting. They don't even have to lead the people to chant the things they want them to chant because they're doing it already. And Gunther opened the show with the live in-ring promo, and the fans are booing him now whenever he speaks. Oh, well, yeah, and it's not like, hey, they're having fun with it, but it's not like, hey, we're playing along. It said, no, this is over. And you suck. And Gunther says, everyone here is a bum. See, I'm perfecting Gunther's accent. He sounds a lot like me anyway. I think he's from South Germany. And he cuts the promo on Damian Priest. And do you remember some of the things he said? You may have, zoned out because of your schedule here lately, but he's kind of getting close to the fucking nerve here. He said he doesn't live up to the World Heavyweight Championship. He's a pretender and a wannabe. Is very stiff. And then he said in German, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. Well, that was pretty daggum deep. And then he called all the fans street trash. He is not a heel that is worried about saying cute things for people to giggle. And he called Priest out to hand him the belt and let's just get it over with. I don't want to have to embarrass you. And at least when Priest came to the ring, he's got the microphone and he starts to talk and he just drops the microphone and nails him and boom, and they get in a fight and the referees, security, they have a pull apart. And I think that's been one of the things is when somebody cuts a strong promo like Gunther did on Priest, whether he's in the ring, standing there listening to it, or it comes beforehand or whatever, when Priest has been coming out trying to be the orator, you kind of like go, fuck, he looks so big and bad, and he's so calm, and he's got such a great demeanor when all the Carlito or Truth or somebody else is pissing him off. And then he laughs it off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's very European.
Well, what does that have to do with the fucking... Can people in the European people can't be offended or pissed off or mad or bow up at somebody? They just,
Well, it depends who you are and where you're from.
Well, I know the people over there in Switzerland, they're fairly well even keel right down the middle. Nevertheless, in this one, Priest just fought him, and it was a good fight and the good pull apart and the good promo as long as Priest didn't say anything. I think that's where he doesn't come off as confident, badass, or anything otherwise than, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Verbally.
Yeah, I mean, this didn't change my mind. Gunther has to get that belt. Gunther's ready for the belt. And Priest, I don't know what you do with him after that, but this isn't working. I don't think.
Well, after that, if they do this right, where somebody in the Judgment Day along the way, accidentally or on purpose, does fuck something up for Priest, then... then that's where he goes, and he's got kind of an out, and he doesn't, just walk out with his tail between his legs, and Gunther can go someplace else with the title. I don't mean another company. I mean with some other matchup or whatever.
Just hopefully not Jey Uso.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, boy, howdy. That'd be rotten. But then, and after the break, they're following up things a lot more on Raw these days. Also, the same people. You see Gunther in the back, and Priest jumps him again, and they fight out to the parking lot, and everybody's going crazy. So, I do. Here's another reason I think it would be better for them if Gunther had the belt. It's easier for a heel to get heat to put the number 2 belt over than it is for a babyface, because still, remember we said from the start of this, they just made up the World Heavyweight title, and there's been now, 2 or 3 people hold it, but it's still not the Roman Reigns or the Cody Rhodes belt. But a heel like Gunther that had that long reign with the IC title and also can just brag, he can get heat having that belt, and it'll make it a little more important rather than a babyface trying to constantly come out there. Remember when Seth was like, yeah, this is the working man's title or the workhorse title. Oh, that means you're a sucker and you have to fight all the time for it. It just, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, again, I think there's numerous reasons why Gunther's the right guy to put the belt on, and now's the time to do it, and you give him a run and let him really be the one to establish it.
But then, Brian, we got the number 1 contender match for the Intercontinental title. And this, I will watch anything Bron Breakker does. And not because everything he does is perfect, because I love to see the natural talent, the incredible personality, the magnetic charisma that he's got, the fucking intensity. And I like seeing him get better and get more over, and the people are starting to realize what's going on. And again, Bron Breakker versus Ilja Dragunov, but we've seen it before, but it doesn't get old. And I thought remember, I didn't think the first one was, they either had a clash of styles or I just didn't like it as much as I thought I would. But this one was fucking great. And, Ilja is so animated, and the way that he sells and his body language and the facials, and he does unorthodox shit. I'm not sure how I feel about the diving forearm finishing blow on the guy that's flat on the ground, because there's no bump, and sometimes to me it seems like you might be able to see through it. And some people that have taken it might say, see through what, motherfucker? But you know what I'm saying. But anyway, I like both these guys, but Bron is a superstar. And they do a lot of different shit. Bron with the gourd buster type of deal, but stomach first on the top of the ring post. You don't see that every day. And they also give the shit a chance to breathe if it's something big, boom. Because of the selling, and Bron's getting it down where he can be off balanced by a smaller guy. Did you see the part where Michael Cole said, well, Pat McAfee has just coined that move, a frankensteiner?
Yeah, what was it? Was he playing around? Did he really not know it? I mean, when you think about it, he's always been calling it a Hurricane Rana. When Scott Steiner was there, he was not doing that move anymore. Did Michael Cole really not know that it's a Frankensteiner? And by the way, they changed that. I mean, everyone who did it for a few years, it was called a Frankensteiner. And then with the rise of the luchadors in WCW, Hurricane Rana became the accepted name for it.
Right.
But for I don't know about a generation, but for a fan base for a few years, it was established here as the Frankensteiner, and that's kind of what it always was.
Well, and you know what it was back in the 60s and 70s, don't you?
Something you never saw except if Gorman and Goliath came to town?
No, Ricky Morton was doing that in fucking 1979.
Right. I mean, again, Scott Steiner did it a little different because he was actually sending the guys to the ropes, but Ricky Morton was doing that in Mid-South Wrestling in 84, the stuff we talk about. Yeah.
And I mean, the flying guys in the 70s, but it was called a Mexican head scissors because that's the way they did it in Mexico. They didn't do the regular flying head scissors that the Gibson brothers, Ricky and Robert, were so good at, or Red Bastien, or, all baby faces in the 50s and 60s and 70s. They did it from the front like that. So it was a Mexican head scissors. In Mexico, it was still a Hurricane Rana. But when Scotty started doing it, at the time, the opponent would be stationary or standing up from a bump, and you would run up and jump up on the shoulders, sit there, and then backflip and do it. But I don't know that anybody in America had, or maybe even in Mexico, I don't know, had shot the guy on the ropes and on the fly jumped up, caught him, and fucking took him over at that point. That's why all the guys in I think of how many things Flair had seen. How many things all those guys had seen, and they were holy shit. It was new to them. And so that's, at first, Scotty didn't really have a name for it. And then it was one of the Clash of Champions I was doing with JR. I did the interview with him. Goddamn, where was it? Somewhere in the Northeast. I was doing the interview with him. And Scotty had earlier that day said, hey, I came up with an idea. I can't do Scott. I want to call it the Frankensteiner. Oh, great. So, because I was on the booking committee at the time. So I went and told Flair, yeah, it's great. Feed him the question or whatever. So I asked him, hey, what do you call that thing or whatever? And it was just his idea that day. But anyway, and then Bron is doing it in a completely different way than anybody else has, because he's so athletic, and the spring in his legs, he adds the run up to the ropes. It bobbled that once, but he's nailed it a lot. And then the double fucking kind of fuck you up top, and then the leap, and boom. He's spinning so fast that the guy has to take his own bump. And you can kind of say, okay, well, it's the momentum, right? The guy being snapped off by his head. But the one thing that Scotty did on the fly is he's kept the head scissors and took the guy all the way over and ended up on his knees on top of the guy. And that was just amazing for his size. And some of the guys that were coming off the ropes, the job guys back there, were like, a bucket of disconnected body parts.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like is you should call it Frankensteiner because that's what it is, but it points out that that's Steiner, but he's not?
Yeah.
That's the only weird thing about it.
But anyway, so they had a good match. I encourage everybody to watch Bron Breakker, since then you can say you knew him when he's the WWE champion in 2 years or whatever.
What'd you think of the finish?
I liked the finish because, well, here's what the finish was. If you didn't see it, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, Ilja hits a big move on the apron like a Death Valley driver, and Bron's out on the floor, and Ilja's going to come and jump off on him, and Bron comes at him with a spear, boom, and he sold it on the floor, and the referee stopped the match. And they blamed the head hitting the apron, and I'm pretty sure I don't want to be, Ilja called me up and say, hey, motherfucker, I got a concussion. But I think he skirted by the back of his head on the apron. I don't think they intended to be that close to the ring. But it ended up that way because Bron's so explosive anyway, he just took him. But it was better off because Michael Cole instantly, look, his head hit the back of the apron. Or back of the ring.
And he sold it on the floor pretty good, too.
Yes. But anyway, with that impact, boom, and the guy sold it. And the referee got in there, and he couldn't get up. He had the breath knocked out of him, whatever. And that saved beating him 1, 2, 3, but it still got Bron, over as the winner. And so now he's got the shot at Sammy for the Intercontinental title. It will be unusual, I would think, to see Bron lose twice to the guy. Don't you think?
At SummerSlam, I don't think they could beat Bron after they just beat him in the previous match with Sammy, unless there's a bigger story they could somehow tell that we're not thinking of, but I don't think he should be eating any more losses right now.
At any rate, I love shit like this. Love shit like this. Everybody's being serious about what they're doing. There's a plan. There's a game plan. They're getting a heel over and getting a babyface over too with Ilja.
But that's part of the issue with Raw. You have the General Hospital segments, but then you have the Dark Shadows segments. You go from the serious, the things that make sense, whether it's talking or a match like this. And let it be said, Michael Cole is much more tolerable now than he has been maybe ever without Vince McMahon there. And McAfee could be annoying, but he gets a good line in there every now and then that like shifts the commentary. And he says like the right thing and no one else does. But he's also annoying in between all of that. And I think he's kind of aware of it too, which, you know, makes it even funnier. But you get these segments and these things that work and are serious. And again, they're establishing both these guys. Ilya's lost a lot. And I don't think it's hurt him yet because of the way things have gone down. But they're trying to establish these guys. But then you go to the wacky, the silly, or the lights out, whatever it may be.
Or just the juvenile, potentially. Because
the juvenile, that's a good way to put it.
Because we're back there. Rhea Ripley, the biggest female star in the business, is back, and she's addressing the rest of the Judgment Day like a friendly supervillain. Just, you know, that's... And Dominic still wants to talk to her. And he's worried about her having something to do with Jey Uso. And Finn tells Dominic, well, you ought to fix Jey Uso for talking about her or whatever, but Rhea doesn't want to start a war with Jey Uso. When did Jey Uso suddenly become a nuclear superpower? It's this goddamn heel group has been fucking with everybody, including the Bloodline at one point. Don't want to start a war with Jey Uso?
Well, they've also been teasing on social media and between all this stuff with Liv and Dominic that Rhea's interested in, or at least is playing around a little bit with Jey Uso.
Well, I know, but just the way that this whole verbiage is going on, right? Instead of saying, no, don't fuck with Jey. Jey hadn't done any of this, so we don't want to start a war with Jey Uso. It's just...
Jey Uso and his army. Who's his army? Like, why wouldn't you want to start? He has no bloodline right now. Why wouldn't you start a problem with him?
You know where he keeps his army? It is sleevey. So
stupid.
Have they? and do you know, matey, where a pirate keeps his buccaneers?
I know this one.
Under his bucking hat. Anyway, I think they might be missing time to get her away from some of these people besides Dom. But the thing with Dominic, she's forgiving him. Well, we'll get there later on. We had a girls' match. We had another Wyatt VHS of Zombie Girl, whatever her complaint is about the way that her existence is gone. I don't understand that shit.
That's my favorite thing. We're all monsters. Here are our grievances. They say all the things that are wrong.
I got a lot of problems with you people. But you know what we didn't have a problem with? Because at the 9 p.m. hour in Green Bay, Wisconsin, America's dairy land, smell that dairy air. Out he came, the man, the myth, the legend, like a Mussolini with extra cheese. Wisconsin cheddar, if you please. Here comes CM Punk.
You proud of yourself?
What are you talking about?
Nothing.
I hit that note like I hit it all the time.
Which note? Which note is that?
That was that note in between the C and the F. It was a F minor note.
It's a big F, that's for sure.
Yeah. But he's got the big pop. He got the big entrance. They chant CM Punk. And he's doing his promo. He's doing his thing. He's talking to him. He says, the bay is green. My shoes are pink. And I say that we stain both of them with the blood of a Scottish psychopath because as of this past Saturday, I'm medically cleared to wrestle. And he calls Drew McIntyre out there and he pulls out some tape and starts taping his fists up like, we're going to goddamn set to this thing right now, Drew McIntyre. I'm going to walk the dog on you. He's taping up. And here comes Drew out with the microphone. And again, this fucking guy, I love him. Nothing's gonna, I can't do the accent though. Nothing's gonna stop me from tearing you apart, except I don't want to. And the people boo. And so Punk says, well, I do. And he charges Drew McIntyre. And here come the referees and blah, blah, all the people out to separate them. And McIntyre says, I'm not going to do this here. This is bigger than Green Bay. And then he's still got the bracelet with AJ and Larry's name on it. And so while the referees are holding Punk back, his raving madman psychopath trying to get at him, he say, you ought to calm down. You ought to think more of your family, and fucking shows the bracelet. And then here comes Adam Pearce, Killjoy, and says they're not fighting tonight because Drew McIntyre is reinstated and Punk is cleared and the match is official at SummerSlam. And that gets a big pop. It's like, this is almost like a goddamn compensated studio audience with a fucking cheer or applause and boo sign or whatever. And if anybody gets physical, the match is going to be off. It's going to be canceled. And the instigator of that physicality will be suspended. And Pierce also said, I got a referee problem. And then boom, and here comes Seth Franklin Rollins. And he gets a big pop coming out in his backless tuxedo negligee. Negligee? Negligee? Is it negligee? It might be negligent.
That's right.
Ha! Well, there you go. We harmonize like the Osborne brothers.
The negligent negligee.
It's an Earl Stanley Gardner mystery, the case of the negligent negligee. The fuck? And by the way, since we're talking about wearing apparel, I'd like to send a special shout out to the guy in the Cornette face shirt in the front row. And those are available at jimcornette.com all day long.
Or you can pick them up directly from the store.
Yeah, the store over at the Feather Bottoms, not over here at the Castle. It's the northern distribution facility. But anyway, and Seth comes out again as, he looked like fucking Zsa Zsa Gabor cooking breakfast on Green Acres. And he's the guest referee. And now both guys are pissed because Punk and Seth don't like each other, and Seth and Drew don't like each other, and nobody likes each other. This is setting up, and I'm not talking about it, SummerSlam. It's great. This is where you start, but this is setting up a three-way that makes some goddamn sense. And I bet with those three in it, they could pull it off. But because there's issues amongst everyone that have already been clearly established.
Yes, I mean, that's right. My only thought was, because they have not had a singles match yet, the idea of injecting Rollins into the match. But is Seth Rollins needed for this match?
No, you mean as the referee?
As the referee, again, they haven't had a singles match yet. It's been maybe the feud of the year. The build-up's been great. Now, before they even have their first physical encounter, Rollins is going to be in the middle of it.
Yes. And I love it because it's not something they've shoehorned in. It's something that makes sense because all three of these guys have their issues where they've talked about each other individually for months and months now. They set it up since Punk came back. And honestly, having Seth, not only is it an attraction for SummerSlam, is something bigger to advertise, but because he's going to be involved in the finish, both guys, no matter which way it goes, can call bullshit, which means a natural rematch amongst them. Maybe Seth is neutralized somehow, or we still need to have Seth versus one guy or Seth versus the other guy. And then I'm talking a three-way triple threat, whatever you want to call it. That may be 6 months from now. But all those things make sense. So I don't mind this being the starting point because it's going to give them more options. Don't you see, Matthew?
No, I see. And, I know that that's one of the directions they can go in for Punk because it is fresh, him and Rollins, and it is something that was teased from the moment he came back, technically before he came back, if you really want to talk about it. But I don't know. I was kind of hoping for him and Drew just to have a kick-ass match, but
then you either...
But I'll see what the story is. I'll see what the story is.
You either, in a kick-ass match, well, and it's not like they're not going to have a kick-ass match.
Right,
but in a kick-ass match with referee Arnold Finster...
But it sometimes would telegraph
but it doesn't
the referee being involved in the finish.
Well, the referee's going to be involved in the finish, but which way did he go? Which way did he go?
George?
See, that's the thing is Seth is a babyface. You would think he'd favor Punk, except he hates fucking Punk, so he might favor Drew. With a regular referee, you either get a finish, one guy wins, one guy loses, or you get some kind of bullshit, DQ, whatever. This way, and because if you don't want to beat either one of these megastars the first time, you can beat either one of these megastars if Seth Rollins is in some way culpable because he got offended. Remember the Undertaker, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, I think, boom, boom, boom. Well, he ducked the chair. He meant to hit the other guy, but well, what the... And both guys can bitch, depending on who loses. And then you have, well, this guy's mad at the referee. We'll have that match. That guy's mad at the referee. We'll have that match. We got to rematch these two guys, but with some other stipulation. And what about all three of them? God damn it. We could do that too. I love that.
Do you think it'll be good, great, or awesome?
I think it will be so awesome that it will have to be delivered in a box. Because anything that comes out of a box of awesome is over. You know, Brian, I feel this way a lot. As a matter of fact, most people feel this way. I saw a piece on the news about this, that most people find that it relaxes them. It takes them away from the hurry-scurry world that they live in, the hustle and bustle of the stress and bug tussle. If they just get a box about once a month, a big old box, and you think, what in the world could be in this box? And you set the box down and you pick up, now they said on the news, a hatchet or a claw hammer, but a ball peen hammer will work as long as you use the sharp end and kind of hit downwards. But you just bust into this box and you see what's in it is awesome, and it makes you feel better. Have you seen these reports now? It's sweeping the nation.
I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. For the record, Box of Awesome is in a box that you can easily open without any sort of power tools or special devices or whatever.
It's nothing. No, we're not talking about anything you got to plug in. We're going back to the Stone Age. We're talking about hatchets and awls and sharp
hatchets.
Yeah, and sharp double-bladed axes like they carried in the medieval times, and people are taking and they're opening these boxes of awesome with them. And it relieves their stress. And then they see what's awesome inside of it because, you know, the people at Bespoke Post, the leaders there at boxofawesome.com, they're the leaders. We are merely the pawns in a game. They've got all kinds of stuff from mom and pop outfits and small companies and artisans and craftsmen all across the world, all the way from here to Zanzibar with a stop in Antarctica. And they have got a variety of things for you in your daily life that you might like, depending on what you like. And that's why they'll ask you what you like. You tell them what you like, and they'll send you what you like. Everything from the handcrafted knives that Brian Last has secreted all throughout his house and under his pillow. They've got barbecue rubs. They've got hand-blown crystal glasses from Italy. They have got more knives. They have got tools. They have got cooking utensils and various complementary things for the culinary arts. They've got all that and more at boxofawesome.com. And what you do is, like I said, you tell them at boxofawesome.com what you like, take the quiz, Join up, and they release new items every month, just like that. Just bing, bang, boom. They don't slap you in the face unless you're interested in that. And I think they got a guy that comes over and slaps you in the face, but
they don't have a guy that comes over and slaps anyone in the face. No, they do not.
They used to have one on Tuesdays, but you can choose from a standard or a premium box. And when you become a member, you will then have access to the stellar discounts across the veritable cornucopia of fine products, up to 30% or more off. And you're supporting small business at the same time. Did I mention, Brian, that these are up and coming businesses, mom and pop shops? They're craftsmen is what they're artists is what they are. They're making these things from the bowels of the earth. They dig up a fistful of dirt and grab a couple of rocks and cut a limb off a tree, and boom goes the dynamite. You've got a handcrafted item of some sort or description, or they might distill something out of the earth and then you can drink it. Because, as a matter of fact,
that's not part of the plan. Again, I don't know what you're talking about here.
No, because these are craftsmen. They're taking the old ways and the old methods into the, with them. They're carrying these traditions on. I'll have you, I got some of the coffee from one of the vendors, and I brewed up the coffee and I drank some of it. I said, well, it tastes like mud. And Stacy said, yeah, I said it was ground this morning. But nevertheless, if you in your box of awesome, you don't know what you're going to get until it's there, and then you're going to love it. You're going to squeeze it and hug it and call it George. And right now, you can get 15% off your first box when you sign up at boxofawesome.com and enter the code JCE. JCE.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
Well, that's because you're always asking me, what's that code again, Jim? Like people can't remember by now, JCE. That's 3 letters, 2 words, I quit. No, whatever. That's sorry, Gordon. Sorry, Gordon. 15%.
That's the one line people remember from that match, though.
Yeah.
Right? That's the one line from commentary people remember from that match.
5 letters, 2 words, I quit.
Now give me my scotch.
Well, 15%, boxofawesome.com, JCE. That's what you need to remember from now until doomsday, or until Box of Awesome goes out of business for giving you such great deals on all these products. I don't know how they do it. They send things, and that whole assembly of the actual life-size model of the Eiffel Tower, they got that in a 2x2 foot box. I've been working on it for months now.
Yeah, I don't know if that's one of the items that I'm aware of.
I think they discontinued it because of the problems with manufacturing.
Again, I don't know what any of that's about, but we could talk about awesome items and awesome things, and they can arrive on your awesome doorstep via your mailman.
But son of a bitch better not come up on my porch. Not on my porch.
What if he had your box of awesome, that man?
He needs to leave it on the wall. My porch is sacred. Don't be coming up on my front porch.
Well, Jim, that's Box of Awesome. What's that sacred promo comb? What's that promo comb? One more tide. That's right. T-T-T-T-T.
J-C-E.
All right, well, let's JCE our way back to Monday Night Raw, or is it just Raw? What is it officially?
It's Monday Night Raw, and what now? Netflix, have we decided that? I hear so many things. We've talked about so many things. They're going to stay on Mondays with Netflix.
I believe so, and that's a good thing.
Well, yeah, because it would disrupt our whole pattern if they wouldn't do that. So speaking of disrupting a pattern, I'm going to skip over the next 20 minutes of this program, but basically they had a 6-man tag to give Otis, Tozawa, and Model Girl a reason to be out there. I've got to admit, Model Girl I've blistered Johnny Gargano for being Johnny Same Face because it's just that bleh expression. He looks like Lon Chaney Sr. next to Model Girl. Her expression is always the same mixture of scared, confused, and puzzled.
Leona Chaney the third.
Leona Chaney the third. Actually, she would probably now, because Lon Chaney Jr. was born about 1910, at least. He had to be 30 plus in the Wolfman.
You feel bad for him. I mean, great career, although...
What?
Maybe in his own head, in his father's shadow, right?
Well, not only in his own head, but let's be honest, Lon Chaney Jr. was one of the shittiest actors in the history of motion pictures.
But he had a good career. He got the Wolfman. I mean, that's a role that everyone talks about to this day.
And only because of he was Joey Rossi. He was George Goulas. He got the shot as the Wolfman because of who his father was. He never attained the heights, the notoriety of Lon Chaney Sr. in his era, who was one of the biggest stars in silent films, the only horror star of note of the silent film era because of the Hunchback of Notre Dame and the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
Well, and all of he did his own makeup because he came from vaudeville and the live stage, and he was able to transform himself into all these different characters. If he had to be what was the penalty was where he was the legless man in the little wheelie thing, that they had back in the 1920s for the legless beggars. He actually strapped his fucking legs behind him to the point where he was losing his circulation. Or for the Phantom of the Opera, he fucking extended his nasal openings with wire so that he looked more like a skull. He'd draw his eyes back with shit. And, that was his trademark, but he was one of the most famous motion picture stars of the 1920s in the country. And
yeah.
Lon Chaney Jr. never got that. The biggest, besides the Wolfman and the horror genre, which he got playing pretty much off of his father's reputation, would it be not of Mice and Men would have been the biggest mainstream movie part he ever played, and he was a supporting actor at that point. He never headlined. I mean, The Hunchback of Notre Dame at the time was one of the biggest budget silent films ever made. So do not compare Lon Chaney Jr., my fine friend, to his eminent father.
Well, again, he was also really good as a hungover Wolfman in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Although I'm not sure he was supposed to be hungover in the script. Who do you think was a bigger star, Lon Chaney Sr. or Karloff? And again, when they brought him over, it was just Karloff. It wasn't even Boris Karloff, just Karloff, like a wrestling attraction.
Well, no, because in the Criminal Code, which was directed by Howard Hawks that was released either earlier in 1931 than Frankenstein or late 1930. He was still more of a supporting player. He had a name on the stage, and that he did have a couple of movie roles where they were just casting him because he was this odd, extreme facial feature looking Englishman that had theatrical background.
But with Frankenstein, it became just Karloff.
With Frankenstein, it became just Karloff, but that was only, remember in the closing credits, in the opening credits, they didn't tell you when Frankenstein was first released who played the monster. Did they? Or am I confusing that with something else, or is that the way you remember?
I don't remember offhand. Did you like in the old black and white films when they used to have the credits at the beginning of the film, not the end of the film ended, and that was it. You were out. Yeah,
boom. The movie company studio logo, and it boom. Yeah, it's a much more linear thing to do, but for me, but you know me, I like things orderly. But nevertheless, Karloff became a bigger star. Not only with Frankenstein, which was a huge success, but through the 30s and into the 40s, and then he had such a longer career. I still think Lon Chaney Sr. for his time may have been, more famous than any of them, because that was a period of time where remember, there was very little radio in the 1920s, and there was no television. Most people, a large percentage of the American population, was going to the movies 2 and 3 nights a week in those days. So the silent movie stars, we always talk about this. It depends on how many people have heard of you as to how big of a star you are, not whether you're the best at something. And more people had heard of, Chaney Sr. than it took Karloff probably a couple of decades to build that kind of widespread notoriety, recognition.
Karloff may have been more of a Gus Sonnenberg than Chaney's Ed Strangler Lewis.
I think there you go. But still very comparable.
It's crazy. I used to know some old guys. I mean, I got to think a lot of them are dead now, but they would tell you these stories of, like, I took the train into Times Square and I had 25 cents and I got to see 3 movies, the shorts, they had live music, a soda, and a popcorn. It's like, what? It sounds crazy. It was the whole day. They just went to the theater, and the whole day the theater had things happening. You could just go in there and stay there all day.
Oh, and we should tidy this up before we get back to the wrestling. For a lot of the young folks out there say, well, who is this Lon Chaney Sr.? Then if he was so big, why didn't he stay big? He died in 1930, right after he had released his first talking picture, which was a remake of the Unholy Three that he had done as a silent. But he had throat cancer. He's only 40-something years old. And the rib of the whole thing is that in his first talkie, he had played 3 or 4 different parts and was mimicking voices, as well as being the man of 1,000 faces. He played an old woman and did an old woman's voice and blah, blah, blah. So, now Chaney's going to do faces and voices, and boom, and he's gone.
Did you, I never asked you this before. Are you a Mel Brooks fan? I was thinking of the movie Silent Movie.
Yes. Young Frankenstein is our favorite over here at the castle, obviously, because it's a classic. But yeah, I love Mel Brooks. And
what about Silent Movie?
As much as we've talked about the producers and Silent Movie, I've seen it. I haven't seen it in forever. Not one of my...
Because that came out in like 79. That's a movie you potentially could have seen in a theater. That's why I'm asking you.
That might be... I mean, Stacy got a DVD set of Mel Brooks, but I don't know whether in the theater might have been when I saw it. That might have been the last time I saw it. What were you going to say about it, though?
You think Shawn Michaels is trying to steal the Marty Feldman look? No, I don't know. I was just wondering, because we're talking about silent films. I thought about silent films.
Werewolf. They're wolf. Anyway, so they did the thing with Gable and the Creeds come out and berate and browbeat Otis and Tozawa and Model Girl, but then says the Wyatts are after all of us, so we ought to team up. And then suddenly Otis has become an orator. And he just delivered a calm, speech about why, no, we're not going to rejoin you. You're on your own. And the fans are chanting for Otis, but don't you expect that big meatball to fucking say, look here, something like, and suddenly he's, a goddamn public speaker. And then Gable sicked the Creeds on him, and they got sloppy heat, and Otis fought back enough to grab Gable, but the Creeds took over again, and they beat up Otis. And then the lights start going out. And the crowd chants, "You fucked up." And so there was a long audio mute. And then we get the piano music. Don't take that as a cue, Brian. And then we get the fog machine. And did you see the tweeterer that had the camera phone footage, cell phone footage, whatever the fuck the kids call it?
Like a water slide the guy held up. How big was that tube?
Folks, if you haven't seen what we're talking about, just right in front of God and everybody, as Aunt Lola used to say, they stick a giant tube. It looks like one of those goddamn things on the deck of a cruise ship in the movies that in a comedy, the guy gets stuck in and they have to pull him out by his feet. Big horn thing is 2 feet around, and they just stick it right in the corner of the ring in front of all of the fans so that some technician is doing this so that the Wyatts can show up.
Yeah, see, that's what got me a few weeks ago. You actually saw, because it was the wide shot of the ring, you saw the guy come up in the corner with the thing. It's like, how are you supposed to take it seriously if you even see it?
Well, it looks even more ridiculous from the vantage point of the front row. And then you see silhouettes in the night. And so while all of this is going on, they've snuck that is Uncle Howdy now. Is that the Uncle Howdy outfit? Is that Uncle Howdy? Who was the guy in the ring?
It wasn't Boy Howdy. I think it was Uncle Howdy.
Could it have been Captain Howdy? He needs to be promoted. But nevertheless, he's in the ring behind Gable and grabs Gable and gives him Bray Wyatt's finish, which is it looks like an upside down backwards crossroads thing. He just spins him right around there. And then they just go to the break. Well, it's normal. Suddenly, the fog rolls in like London on a fucking humid day. And this fucking monster creature drops one of the wrestlers on his head. And now we're going to go sell you some toothpaste. I want to like Chad Gable so much, and he's in the middle of all of this. He can't get away. Just him and Otis without everything else might even be interesting. Am I overstating this?
I mean, this is one of the parts I started fast forwarding during, because I kind of knew what was happening and you knew it was going to turn into the Wyatt stuff, and I'm not a fan of that stuff, and this didn't change my mind when I stopped to watch it. The Creeds apparently are real brothers, and they just don't look like it at all.
No, I can see it. Oh, yeah, no, there's no suspectifying the milkman in that.
That's not what I was saying. That's what you were saying.
I'm just, actually, I could see that they were brothers right off because they're not like identical twins, but they have the same kind of characteristics. And also it's been proven because, their mother once,
Stop.
No. Well, no, when they were younger,
No.
she had them both take a DNA test just to make sure that they were hers.
Again, none of this is true, let alone confirmed. But what is this leading to? Is this leading to the Creeds and Gable feuding with the Wyatts? Is that like the mid-card feud? That's what it's going to be? All these months of weird static and cut-ins and videotapes leads to that? Is Otis going to join that heel team? I mean, what is this other than something I don't want to watch?
Well, and that's a good point. And also, Gable and the Creeds, you can see why they want to put them together because the Creeds have the amateur background, and so does Gable. Gable is an accomplished professional wrestler. I have yet to see that from the Creeds. We've talked about their tag team matches in the past. They look better in suits than they do in whatever the fuck it was they were wearing. But they're very green. And Gable's drawback is he's small. So if they put him against the supernatural family of, Karloff, Lugosi, Chaney, and fucking whatever, then I don't see this is going to be real good. Anyway, we're going to have one more segment, and then I'm going to explain how I forgot to watch the last hour. It was on in the room. I was just distracted and forgot to watch it. But Rhea and Dominic. Bron, didn't everybody want Rhea Ripley to come back to tell this fucking little weasel Dominic, you know, what time it is and what he can do with his goddamn mommy bullshit now that, you know, he's been bumping uglies with Liv Morgan? Wasn't that what the idea that everybody was kind of thinking was going to happen?
Swerve.
No, he works for the other guys.
No,
she doesn't have anything to do with him.
No, an old school Swerve. You thought it was going that way. We went this way. We swerved. I guess I shouldn't say which way. Then maybe his song. I forget what he says in his song. He swerves when he drives, not he swerves to the right.
But he can't drive 55. And if I had a hammer,
yeah, I would hit myself in the head because we've killed the show. Where were we, ladies and gentlemen?
So we were at Rhea and Dominic in the ring doing a promo, and now Rhea's been pissed at everybody. And Finn was given the Judgment Day orders earlier, and they were all plotting. But now Rhea just says, Liv Morgan, you want him, come and get him. And there's Dominic still in the ring, humming. And Liv is up in the cheap seats with a spotlight, cutting a promo where Rhea can't get a hold of her. And basically, she can wait to fight Rhea till SummerSlam. She and Dominic have feelings for each other because Dominic doesn't go for girls that look like you, Rhea. And Rhea starts to go for Liv, and she's going to leave the ring and go up and grab her, and Dominic is holding on to Rhea, and she's screaming at Dominic, and Dom's like, let me take care of this. And Liv is instigating from up in the cheap seats. How was it she said it when Dominic says the 3 little words or whatever? But anyway, Dominic now is going to placate Rhea, and he says, are you stupid? Are you deaf? I hate you. There's your 3 little words. And he goes into Spanish, and then he's back in English. You've ruined my life. And it's a fuck. It's a goddamn.
She turned around. Did you see when she turned around up there? And she
Liv?
Yeah, she turned
around and walked off?
No, she turned around very slowly to show you her ass. Because I said that's what this whole thing's about. This whole thing's about him wanting that ass.
Well, she was wearing an abbreviated costume. But the thing is, that's why I was saying when she turned around and walked off, they had the camera on her, because as Dominic has told her off, Liv is the heel, right? Because Rhea Ripley is one of the most popular goddamn, for now, the way they're booking her, one of the most popular personalities, male or female, in the company.
Yeah.
So then Liv must be a heel, and she's the one that's been trying to get this clueless putz to not be able to keep his dick in his pants and fuck with Rhea. Well, now when Dominic tells her off, the heel starts crying. Now, it was fake crying, but she was trying to act like it was real crying. She just couldn't really cry. So she starts, in quotation marks, crying, and turns around and walks off all upset. And then Rhea kisses and licks Dominic on the cheek for telling her off. So, but they still hate Dominic. Are we stuck in a goddamn loop again? And McAfee's closing remark was, well, Dominic's gone from the outhouse to the penthouse with Rhea. And I guess you could say that. Somebody could.
Rhea's a babyface. Dominic's a heel. Liv's a heel. I don't know what's so confusing about all that.
Well, but then the heel is crying because she was bullied and told off. But should the heel cry for real?
It's a very interesting time. It's almost like a heel refusing to give up even when they threaten to light him on fire.
Well, but we'll get to that, but I could understand that, and I'll tell you why. See, I'll tell you why later on that one. But I don't think that the heel's going to have a lot of heat if she gets told off and she starts crying and she's obviously hurt and morose.
She's manipulative. Well, they really haven't established crazy, just playing games with people's emotions and causing them to, I don't know what else to say.
Games people play, right, wrong, you just can't stop them.
That's right.
What they should do. All righty, so that was Raw. That's what that was.
So what happened to the last hour of Raw?
Well, hold on here. Wait a minute, let me turn back to this page. At 10 o'clock, Zelina versus Zoe was their choice for the 10 o'clock hour. And I said, well, I'm going to zip to the main event. And I did. It was Sammy and Jey Uso against Finn and JD. And then I got distracted and I forgot to watch it. And then my attention was called back to it when the DVR ended and the news came back on. And I said, well, then I'd have to fucking zip through 2.5 hours of that thing, start where it. So I don't really have a report on that.
All right. Well, that was Raw.
It certainly was.
Well, before we get to Dynamite, let's try to get a few things here in the middle. Jim, I have an article here from the New York Post, July 24th, 2024, by Joseph Staszewski. Damian Priest's WWE rise has only just begun on journey to SummerSlam. Quote, can't go backward. It's still so surreal to Damian Priest that he doesn't want it to end or see himself slide backward. The Bronx native won his first world championship with an epic Money in the Bank cash-in on Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 40 to become World Heavyweight Champion. It's allowed the 41-year-old Priest to establish himself among WWE's main event talent while being a leader in one of its hottest factions in the Judgment Day, all in the latter stages of a career that began in 2005 at Old Time Wrestling in New Jersey. So let's stop there, because that was one of the surprises to me. I didn't realize he's 41 years old already.
Well, I guess maybe that makes sense. We looked up his age one time. It was like 39, but that may have been a while back. He carries it well, but
does it help or hurt the wrestler for that to be public?
Well, that's it. When he was saying the other day, I fought on the streets for 20 years. Well, I guess you could start becoming a street fighter as an impoverished child living in the ghetto when you're 10 years old or whatever. But to actually, I think they should downplay that part. If you have been a star for an extended period of time, and then they talk about you having a 20-year career, that's one thing. If people bring up that you've had a 20-year career and we just heard of you fucking recently, probably not a help.
Well, let me go further down in this article here. Not everything has gone perfectly during Priest's reign. During a critical point late in his match against Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank, he did not kick out when he was supposed to. But the referee, smartly, did not count to 3, so he was eventually able to turn McIntyre's cash-in attempt. That is what it says, thanks to outside help from CM Punk. Priest didn't want to get into anything medical around the situation, saying it was personal, but did want to set one thing straight. Here's a quote. The idea that I forgot to kick out, that's not a thing. That's not a thing. We don't forget to kick out. 20 years in, I'm pretty sure there is some kind of muscle memory there. So me forgetting was not the case. There was nothing outside that was supposed to happen. It was a matter of, there was a situation, but I'm okay. Everybody's fine. The story continues. Let me stop right
Well,
there.
that's a great way for him to put it, because remember, we didn't say he forgot to kick out. He didn't kick out is a correct way to phrase it, but no, you don't forget. Oh shit. I forgot this wasn't the finish, even though we went over the finish for a fucking hour earlier with Drew and blah. I just forgot. No, that doesn't happen. But and we mentioned at the time, there's things that can. When a referee goes down, especially in the old days when fans were making a lot of noise and you worked with a lot of different referees, so everybody's different. Sometimes a guy will interpret the first count as he saw out of the corner of his eye the referee going down and thinks he just landed on the mat, or miss one, misinterpret something. And that's where most of that, oh shit, he didn't kick out comes from. You thought it was on 2, or something had distracted you, or you thought it was on 1 rather. And then sometimes you get your bell rung, and it sounds like, didn't they do the goddamn thing where there was a superplex and then they rolled up and picked and the other guy came up and boom and down? Somebody hit the back of their fucking head probably, or it sounded like Priest did.
Well, let me just finish what it says here. He was kicking himself, that's a quote, because the moment happened as he and other performers strive for perfection. Any reaction to it on social media didn't bother him because, another quote, it's not real. And said when he showed up on Raw the next night, he got a great reaction from fans. Another quote, there for the story and the big picture. It doesn't affect anything. The show goes on, and I think fans are very invested in everything that's going on. The ones that matter knew the situation, and nobody thought twice about it. Move on.
Please get off of my back. The only thing, I think it's disrespectful, even when we're talking about something that happened in a match that the bone of contention here wasn't supposed to be the finish, and he didn't kick out. So that kind of tells you it's a work. But for any of the boys to just come out and say things like, it's not real, or use the F word, or speak derogatorily just that bluntly and in that fashion about the business, I still think doesn't do anybody any good, because it's not real. In most people's minds, it's not far away from, yeah, that shit's easy. And that's why all these fucking jackoffs think they can do it these days. So we are downgrading our own profession, but nevertheless.
Well, I guess that's really it. That's the crux of the stuff in the article here that I wanted to ask you about, was just the idea of what happened there. It sounds like, if we're doing basic deduction, probably had his bell rung, and because of that it happened. That's why no one else had a problem with it. They understood. But have you seen guys deliberately do that ever? To fuck up the finish? They're working with someone they don't like, whatever it is, where they just don't kick out. They forget to kick out. They claim they forget to kick out, but they just didn't kick out.
I think we'd have to think a long time to figure out the last time that a guy went into business for himself and changed the finish, and he's the one that got beat. I can only think of Murdoch, because that was his rib, and probably Carl Cox, where he got it from, too. Someday, if they were just in that mood, or in a town they didn't want to fucking be in or whatever, they would grab the opponent, even if it was a job guy, and just fucking small package themselves with the guy and cinch up where the guy couldn't let him go, and beat themselves and get up and cuss him. What the fuck are you doing, you double-crossing motherfucker?
You know, it made me think of Buddy Landell because of the Sonny King thing. And then I actually did want to mention to you, I saw the footage recently, someone tweeted, you retweeted it, of the angle from right before the dog left.
Yes.
With the dog and Hercules, and Sonny King runs in the ring. Every single thing he does, he botches.
Yes. It was all over the place. You didn't know. Either you didn't know it was coming, you didn't know what was coming, or it looked like shit and you didn't know how to sell it. And he was incredibly hard to work with, and Buddy was not the most patient young man, trying to get over in a goddamn territory where everybody knew that, Sonny was not going to draw any money at that point once we'd seen him. And Buddy just had less patience than anybody else for it. But good Lord, it was ugly. It was ugly. I told you that one time. Sonny King versus Hercules Hernandez. Now, all due respect to Sonny King, who had a boxing background and was 6'3" or 4" and 240 something and 50 or whatever in his day, but he was in his mid-40s and had open heart surgery. And he's in there with Hercules Hernandez, who looks like he ate Mr. Universe. And jacked to the gills and fucking giant, 285 pounds, 2% body fat. And they're trying to have a match, and Herc's trying to sell for him, and it was just ugly. But Biloxi, Mississippi, the referee comes around and says, pull Sonny's leg to start the heat, right? Okay. So I'm going to wait until Sonny King is doing something to Hercules and hits the ropes. Either he's got a headlock, he gets shot off, what? But no, instead, and by the way, Sonny's calling a match because he's the veteran, right? They're just humoring it. Hercules stops him and grabs him and arm whips him into my ropes. And I didn't trip him. Because why would I be fucking up my guy's maneuver, right?
Yeah, right.
But when Sonny hit the ropes, even though I'm 5 feet away on the floor, I didn't even reach for him. He goddamn did a slow Ox Baker crumble to the ground like somebody had tripped him. And he looks over at me and gives me a look like death, like, what the fuck? Well, no, what the fuck? You've been in business 20 years. Why would I trip the man that my wrestler had just whipped into the ropes to give him a devastating clothesline or whatever? Oh, fuck, I got to save your ass. What sense does that make? Fucking Biloxi. And then Ronnie West came over and said, Sonny, why didn't you trip him? And I said, go. And I told him, I said, go tell him I didn't trip him because why would I fucking trip him in that context? If he'd had a headlock and Hercules had shot him off, that's a defensive maneuver to get out of a headlock. If I trip the guy and he goes down, then my guy can get on him. If he shot him in the ropes, he was going to drop kick him and I tripped him, then my guy's up there 6 feet in the air kicking fucking oxygen.
Yeah, makes no sense. But you said something before about Sonny King calling the match because he was the veteran. You always hear, as a mark like me, that the heel calls the match. How true is that, and why is that?
Well, it was true except when it wasn't. And now I think it's a combined effort for everybody to be able to remember this shit, that they sit down and go over for hours or have written out or have talked about on the phone for days or whatever. So they're all reminding each other. But in the tradition in the territories was that the heel called the match because that way the heel could control the tempo and the flow of the thing. The heel, it's easier for the heel to be calling the match for the babyface to control the overall deal, and also especially because in a lot of cases the heel is doing more for getting the babyface over during his heat than maybe even the spots that he calls at the start of the match to shine the babyface. If the heel is kicking the shit out of the babyface, not giving him room to breathe, goozling him, keeping him down, riding him, just not giving him hope spots, then he's just beating the shit out of this fucking guy. But if the heel is constantly having the babyface fight back or giving him hope spots or registering that the babyface, even while he's down, is more than the fucking heel gave him credit for, that subliminally gets the babyface over more, even depending on what the finish is. So that was a thing. And then, but there was exceptions to that, obviously. If there was a wide disparity in experience, or if the babyface was the star and the heel was a, preliminary guy, but a lot of Flair would get with George South sometimes on TV and say, you call it, whatever the fuck, right? But and then also Lawler in Memphis, even especially as a babyface, was going to call the match because he was, as Nick Bockwinkel said one time, one of the most brilliant ring generals he'd ever been in a ring with. He just knew psychology, knew when to bring it up, when to take it down, when to shine the babyface, but when to cut him off, when to, as the babyface, when he should fire back and stay alive, the whole flow of the thing. And then timing on finishes. But nevertheless, so yeah, but with Hercules Hernandez at that point, had probably been in the business not even 3 full years. And, he said, okay, Sonny, he's the fucking baby face. He can call the way that we're going to cut him off, right? It's not like that this was shut up and let me talk. But he was going with it, I guess, because at the time, Herc was kind of new, and also he's like, what the fuck? I don't care.
Were there ever fights over who's calling a match?
Every once in a while, sort of like the fucking story I told you at the time, Ernie Ladd got, I think it was Dr. Death in the corner. And said, just calm down and listen to me. He just he turned his back on him, sandwiched him in the corner, grabbed the top rope, and we're going to stay here until you calm down and listen to me. Every once in a while, somebody will pipe in with a suggestion. Who's calling this match? Just hold on. But, it doesn't generally, or it didn't generally escalate into any kind of violence in the ring. And you could tell when guys got on different pages, and that's when the matches fell apart because they didn't like what was going on or didn't trust each other or whatever. And then that's when you got most of the time it didn't happen in the ring. It was in the locker room afterwards when you got those deals going on. Tojo Yamamoto and Dandy Jack Donovan in Louisville.
Yeah.
They just, started going for each other's eyes because there was not a lot of cooperation.
Well,
what were we talking about?
We were talking about a variety of things, from Damian Priest to Sonny King to heels calling the match.
Yes. And that was
and now there are no heels. I guess that's why the match is up for grabs, whoever wants it.
Well, and that's, it's a collaboration now, but there was no ability to sit down with your opponent in 75% of the arenas, the way they were set up and the way that the promoters did business in most territories, to sit down and talk over your match. So you got the finish from the booker or the referee or the booker's assistant, representative, whatever. And then you'd send, okay, well, tell him when I swing the fucking cleaver, make sure he ducks because I'm left-handed or whatever. Anything that needed to be clarified to make sure everybody understood what was going on, they would hopefully carry the message back over the other side. And then you did it in the ring, but you called everything up to that point in the ring as it was going on, and you couldn't have, both guys just doing shit back and forth at random, say, I'll do this now, because that wouldn't have made any fucking sense. And even with a lot of tag teams, Dennis and Bobby, the Midnight Express, when they first got together, Dennis was calling the match, and Dennis was kind of calling a lot of the stuff Bobby was doing, because that's the thing. If you're a good tag team, if I'm the heel and I've just planted the fucking baby face and I turn around and tag my partner as he's getting in and I'm getting out, I'm either going to tell him what to do to that guy or what that guy's about to do to him. In other words, if the baby face is going to pop up during that switch and take an arm drag the new heel coming in, Then when I tag my partner, as he steps by me, I say, arm drag. And he knows that the babyface is going to spin under him and boom, and things like that. So you're calling for the other guy also.
All right, Jim. Well, before we move on, I'm going to play you some audio because a lot of people have been sending it in, a lot of the listeners. We're going to talk about Dynamite in a bit, but Tony Khan had a media call for the Ring of Honor event. I forget which one it is. Is it Death Before Dishonor?
I think the dishonor has already gotten here.
Honor used to be here. Honor doesn't live here anymore, whatever the name of the pay-per-view event is.
Rolls Royce, you've abandoned me. Honor don't live here anymore. Ding, 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 ding. So what did Tony the Tiger have to say?
Well, we have some audio here. This is from the Brandon Thurston Twitter account, seemingly run by Brandon Thurston.
the aforementioned. Copyright Brandon Thurston, all rights reserved by Brandon Thurston.
But this is from the media call for the Ring of Honor event. A question about a rumor going around. I don't know if you had really seen it on social media, but in the days leading into this call yesterday, rumors going around that the Warner Brothers Discovery AEW deal is done, that they're just waiting to finalize it, but it's done.
I heard there was a rumor going around the town that they didn't want Tony around.
Well, there are rumors, so apparently Brandon Thurston asked Tony about it. Let's go to this. We'll break it up and talk about whatever we hear here that's interesting. Let's go to this.
I was wondering if you could tell us if there's any truth to the report that there's an agreement in principle between AEW and WBD for a TV renewal.
Well, we're having great talks.
Oh, Jesus.
It's still in conversation, so I think that would be premature to say that, we're all set and done, because that's, still what we're working on. So having great talks, including today, and have had some great meetings with the executive team, Mr. Zasloff, Kathleen Finch, Bruce Campbell, and the great people at Warner Brothers Discovery.
Okay, you got to back off the mic a little bit with that dinger.
I'll ding.
Captain
I'll ding farther away.
All right, let's go back
Uncle
to Tony.
Ding.
It's put a lot of time in and had a lot of great meetings and conversations. So it's still something we're all working on together. So, yeah, I think it would be premature to say that for sure. But also important to note that it's a very good ongoing dialogue that we're having. Thanks.
Well, let's stop right there. He won't say that the deal's done because that's premature, but they're having a good dialogue. So he basically did answer the question, just did it as uneasily and unwieldily as he could. He could have just said, the deal's not done, we're still talking, but we're optimistic. Something, but instead you got that word salad.
Well, yeah, he's torturing the syntax to the point where it ought to be against the Geneva Convention. But the point is that as everything Tony does, he uses so many. He says the same thing. I'm going to fuck this up now, but I'm starting to do it. He says the same thing over and over, slightly changing the words each time to where he says 4 times as many words as it would have taken for him to just answer the fucking question. And that tends to come off like a car salesman or like somebody trying to talk somebody else or themselves into something. Do you see what I'm saying? Where it comes off as, because he's so superlative about it and everything's so great that it almost comes off as, oh shit, we're fucked. Do you get that?
I get that. I also get that clearly he has either been trained or he thinks this is the effective way to speak to the press, but he comes across with less and less credibility the more he talks to the wrestling press or any press, really. And everything's great. Everything's going great. It's almost like he's trying to will it to happen.
Yes, that's what he's trying to talk himself into it.
But if it doesn't happen, he's he's going to have a lot of egg on his face. Let's go back to this.
Well, and by the way, and we're not going to say it is or it's not. And now the NBA thing, let's just sidetrack for a second here, unless that's contained in any of this audio we're going to listen to.
No. Let's talk about, I mean, that's an ongoing story right now. They got, the lawsuit was launched this morning, I believe.
Well, then for the folks out there who actually have happy lives and don't have to worry about any of these motherfuckers, the NBA wants to give the package that Warner Brothers Discovery has had on TNT, TBS, whatever the fuck, wants to not give it to, but sell it to Amazon, right? Or was it Amazon? Is Netflix? Who's getting this fucking thing? The streaming people.
It was Amazon, yeah.
Okay. And the WBD executives had the right to match any deal that they were offered over at the NBA, and they could keep the deal. And they claim, and we've heard this story before, but they claim that they matched it. But then the NBA said, no, it's not matched because it's not the equivalent of blah, blah, blah. And each side has hunkered down on their position. So the NBA has announced this deal and that this package is going to Amazon and all the, just like, yeah, we're doing this. And did you see the tweet from TNT Network or whatever? It was legitimate that, no, we believe we have fulfilled our rights and will be seeking remedy for this in a court of law. And so before this thing comes about, one would think that if they are this intent over at WBD of putting a wrench in this thing, that they would be able to get an injunction. So is the money spent yet? Because everybody was talking about, point I was trying to make, if they were going to spend over $1 billion for the NBA, could they afford to keep the lesser programs? Or if they weren't going to spend $1 billion, were they going to be more apt to spend for the programs they already have that produce something? But now, do they actually know whether they're going to be spending the $1 billion or not?
Everything's up in the air right now.
So Brian, when you're doing your household budget there at Last Manor, if there's this little line item where you're not sure that you're going to be spending $1 billion or not, are you going to give the fucking milkman a raise?
No.
So I don't think they know what the fuck is going on over there yet.
Well, let's go back to Tony Khan.
We may have a couple more write-ins here, actually, Tony, but Brian, you're up next.
Oh, hi.
Oh.
Hey, Jim, can I tell you something?
What?
Yes,
what?
Sir.
Or Brian, you know what's interesting?
Let's stop it there for a moment.
What the fuck is going on here?
Was he talking to us?
I'm scared if he was. Is it somebody infiltrated my fucking headphones? Was that the press scrum audio? Hey, Brian. Hey, Jim. Hey, Jim, can I ask you something? Well, sure, Brian. Who are these people? Goddamn, they're pretenders.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's go back a second and we'll jump back in here.
Brian, you're up next.
Hey, Jim, can I tell you something?
Yes, sir.
Or Brian, you know what's interesting?
Yes, sir.
You know, I don't usually do this, but since Brandon brought it up and asked, you know, I had a major member of the wrestling media mention to me yesterday, WWE is telling people that, and I don't know why WWE is telling people about our media rights deal. I don't really know what it's any of their business. I don't really understand why WWE PR calls people and talks about my business. WWE PR is telling people that the deal is done and that the deal is done at the same level that it was going to be our previous deal. That's not the case. I don't know why WWE PR and why major wrestling media members who are very credible and have never lied to me are, you know, I don't know why they're telling people that. It's none of their business. I think WWE PR really gets involved in a lot of things they shouldn't get involved in.
Can we hold on one second?
Yeah.
Can we just find out who is WWE PR? I know we got EVPs, but who's WWE PR? We got to find that son of a bitch, root him out. He loose lips sink ships. He's a big mouth.
The other interesting thing is gentleman who used to work for WWE PR, who left maybe a year ago or so, went to work for AEW. So you would think Tony may have the inside track on at least a previous iteration of WWE's operations and PR, but there's a little bit more here. But
I know, and we're going to go back to it, but I just want to make the statement right now. He said, a member of the wrestling media who I trust said of WWE PR, some guy in a fucking office is probably rattling some marked journalist fucking cage. I don't think this is a concerted effort or an orchestrated corporate espionage plot to slander Tony Khan to the fucking New York Times, but play the rest of it because I'm sure he disagrees with me.
Do you think it's problematic if it's as simple as someone in the wrestling media hits up WWE PR for whatever reason, they're chit-chatting, and the guy says, you know, we hear a rumor or we've heard that the deal is done, that it's the same thing. Is there anything wrong with saying that if you're chit-chatting with someone who may bother PR all the time for wrestling news or confirmations or whatever it may be?
No. You say, hey, I bet you, or I heard, or any of those things, yeah, the deal's done, or they're not going to get the deal, or blah, blah, blah. You still have to kind of investigate that a little further. But by the same token, you're going to bound to have that happen because I'm sure on personal conversations, people that work for the WWE are going, yeah, that fucking amateur hour bullshit. Because why not? Look at it.
The two options are basically he's saying either WWE PR independently is doing this, or the other implied thought would be that someone is directing them to do this.
No, that's why he keeps saying WWE. He can't say, yeah, I know a guy that does a newsletter that talks to somebody that worked in the office. That doesn't sound glorious enough, like a concerted effort that they're talking about at the WWE board meetings.
Nick Khan is my boogeyman. He hasn't said that.
But when he can say WWE PR like they're an official branch of it's like the WWE fucking Secret Service and they're here to plant disinformation, it sounds like that he wants people to think that the WWE is afraid of him and upset with him and trying to fuck with him on a regular and widespread basis because that makes his company look like it's something. And, again, I'm not saying that nobody in the WWE office or that works for the company is not going to go, yeah, these fucking jolly jokers, every chance they get about AEW, and probably most of them mean everything they say. But it's not like when AEW was an idea, had not been announced or had been announced but hadn't been put into practice yet, that's when they were offering at the WWE considerably more money to renew people because, we're going to lose talent, a billionaire, blah, blah, blah. After they saw it, they started firing all those people they gave big raises to because they were like, what the fuck? These guys won't help that. And now the money's so out of whack with the universe that the WWE's working in these days anyway, that but go ahead. I digressed.
I can tell you that is very untrue because when we make a deal for AEW, it's going to be a great deal with a big increase over what we've been doing. We're in a really good position. We've been doing great business here despite what they're trying to do to us. Thanks.
Despite what they're trying to do to us.
As if that would affect the booking or anything, what they're trying to do. And again, that's the one thing Tony never admits to or really comes around on, the fact that there are booking issues that are institutional at this point with AEW because it's all coming from his head. But the idea that he just said out loud, we are going to get a big increase. We're going to have a great deal. Unless you know you have the deal done, saying these things out loud isn't smart. That's always my attitude. If you're negotiating, why do you say these things if there's a chance it could not happen? You're going to look like a fool.
You remember what Aunt Lola used to say, the less a man makes declarative statements, the less likely he is to be proven a fool in retrospect. Actually, that wasn't Aunt Lola. I think that was in a movie. But nevertheless, he could at least downplay it just to temper lowered expectations just a little bit. And then if he does get a raise and a big increase, he can pop him even further. But he's building the anticipation to the point where it might not be matchable with an increase.
Yeah, what do you think helps him more? Saying these things, making statements about what you're going to get, and also blaming WWE for all your problems, or just saying, we're in active negotiations, I can't comment any further until we're done, but then we'll have plenty to say?
Yes.
Well, that would help him a whole lot more, wouldn't it?
Well, because the Warner Brothers Discovery people that he thinks he's trying to put over and show respect for, and Mr. David Zaslav and all the great conversations that we have, they know what the talks are too. And he really looks like an idiot if he's telling this publicly to them. If he's telling this story publicly and it's not the story that's going on in private, they're saying, hey, Tony, things are tight. We're cinching up the belt.
What happens if Zaslav gets fired?
Well, the other guy was gone.
That's right. There's a whole
Kevin Riley.
There's more heat and pressure on David Zaslav right now than Kevin Riley ever had in his whole life.
And then at that point, is here comes Brad Siegel or Jeff Schuster or whoever the fuck,
Neil Sean.
Neil Sean might cancel wrestling next. Hey,
any name we could think of.
Got to make way for the drum kit. I think we love working with these people. We think it's been an excellent relationship. We're looking forward to expanding it, but we can't really comment on the specifics of ongoing negotiations. Certainly, we will let you know as soon as we have any updates to share.
Yeah, and the other important thing to say is that the storyline from wrestling journalists that Tony Khan trusts for the entire run of AEW has been, once they get that renewal, the company has made money. Remember, originally they said it was going to be the video game. I think we could all say now the video game is a massive bust. Not just a failure, it's a massive bust. It's a joke. They blew their shot at a video game, spending how many millions of dollars on it?
We heard 60 million, didn't we?
We heard a few different numbers. Who knows? A lot of money. We've seen rumors of what the contracts are. That's a lot of money. The production, a lot of money. The airfare, a lot of money. We were told that the renewal of the TV rights would be the thing that cures anything and shuts everyone up. And for it to work, Tony has to get a big increase. Tony also needs to get a streaming partner as part of it. If he doesn't, it's not a good deal. If you're going to still have these issues where the pay-per-views in various places, where the archive's not available anywhere online in an easy fashion, I think that's the thing. Tony needs for a victory to come away with a multi-year deal. He needs any kind of increase. I don't think he's going to get a massive increase like he's indicating here. He needs any kind of increase, and he needs streaming. He needs a partner for the pay-per-views and for the archive. That's a win. Anything other than that is not a win.
But it's not right now a win. It's an if.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Well, we will see what happens there. Jim, Tony Khan's looking a bit unruly. I saw video and photos of him at the San Diego Comic-Con. Looked like he hasn't slept in a few days. Looks like he could use a good shave.
Boy, I'll tell you what, I was thinking the same thing the last time I saw him, because he looks like Lon Chaney Jr. turning into the Wolfman. I think Tony needs to start shaving the backs of his knuckles. And have you seen the palms on Tony Khan?
No,
holy
never.
mackerel. Looks like a 70s nudist colony movie. His palms, I'm telling you. So all of these things could be rectified if he knew our friend Harry over at Harry's. Because if you're Harry, ladies and gentlemen, and you don't want to be, well, ladies, if you're Harry, it might, there is a market for that, but I don't think Harry's.
Let's leave the ladies alone, Jim.
Well, I wasn't molesting the ladies in any way. I just didn't want to give them bad advice. But most of the Harry's products would be for hairy men. But everybody knows Harry's, even the people who ain't hairy. Because most of the people who ain't hairy lost their hair because of Harry's. Harry's shave is an unbeatable value, and here's why. Because they got German-engineered blades made in their own factory. They stay sharp longer. Those Germans, they're vicious, right? They'll cut you. But they also have, over at Harry's, customizable delivery options for scheduled refills as low as $2. And you can get a 5-blade razor with a weighted handle and ergonomic design, foaming shave gel, and a travel cover for just $3 to try this whole thing out. And Bron, now this is for your general head area. The top of your head or the underneath of your head, your chinal area, into the frontal occipital protuberance.
The facial area.
Facial and headal. Because you can go all around. Your face is not necessarily on the back of your head.
Headal?
Actually, your face is closer to your chest than it is the back of your head. You shouldn't shave your ears with Harry's, but it's for most of the things around up above your shoulders, and it'll make them slicker than come on a gold tooth. And again, the foaming gel, it's richly lathering. They also have skin softening body wash and scents like redwood, wildlands, and stone, so you can smell like trees, woods, and rocks. And they've got extra strength, high quality, amazing smelling deodorant for just $5. If you are living in a cardboard box under the overpass, you could walk up and down the street and gather enough loose change to smell like a fucking New Orleans whorehouse on Saturday night. Just good. Just, smell that. That smells good. And they've got the highest customer satisfaction in the shaving industry. All of their customers are satisfied. If they get even an inkling you're not satisfied, they'll send you the really sharp blades, and that'll take care of that. You don't hear about the unsatisfied customers very much at Harry's. We try to downplay that. Brian, have you recently used your Harry's?
Well, I've been growing my facial hair for the summer, so I have not, except for some tidying up around the edges.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Why do you grow facial hair for the summer and then not for the winter? In the winter, you need to keep your face warm. But in the summertime, your face is going to sweat.
I may do it again in the winter. I just look really good right now with a suntan and facial hair. It's really working for me. The chlorine in my hair, a nice terry cloth shirt. I look really good right now.
Folks, again.
How you looking?
Let's go.
How do you look right now?
I've got a T-shirt on, shorts that have holes in them, and fucking tube socks that have no elastic.
Why you have shorts with holes in it?
Because that's where it's most comfortable. That's where it gets the most wear. It's got the holes. That means there's something rubbing around there. So, the less material you've got constricting your movement, the more comfortable it's going to be. What? They'll just pop out every now and then just because of that. But well, the only people that see it, somebody comes up on my porch.
That poor dog.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Harley's used to him.
Well, again, I don't know where we went and how we got there.
Well, we were talking about the folks at Harry's.
Folks at Harry's.
The best shaving, you don't have to go in a store and pay a fortune for the daggum things that they've got to take the crowbar and pry the anti-theft device off. You don't have to do it. You just have them delivered to your door. You start out with the trial kit that's normally $13. You're going to get that for $3. You can't even get a bum on the side of the street to give you a shave for $3 anymore. And then once the bum gives you this trial set, he'll leave.
What do you mean anymore? Who went to a bum for a shave for $3?
You used to be able to get a bum to do almost anything for $3.
Why would you want them to shave you?
Well, it just depends on what you need them to do. I'm not going to judge, but they would do it for $3. But folks, right now, you can get a trial set of Harry's at harrys.com. That's HARRYS.com. No apostrophe in there. harrys.com/JCE. You get your $13 trial set for $3. Try the foam, try the razor, try the way that it smells and the way that it makes you feel, and feel about yourself and feel about the world around you. And go off whistling. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my, what a wonderful shave. Plenty of more hair growing on my face, so I'm going to rake it with Harry's all over the place. Harrys.com
All right, well.
/JCE.
Well, Mr. Bluebird on your shoulder, or Bluebeard on your shoulder, it's time to fly off to a tropical locale, or Nashville, Tennessee, as it were.
Yeah, all the palm trees down there in Nashville. That's what they make the sausage gravy and grits out of.
AEW Dynamite coming from your old stomping grounds, Jim, Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, and speaking of Nashville and the Bridgestone Arena, and this was AEW on July 24, Blood and Guts. I'll let you do a little Googling there, Brian. Google your apparatus there. That's a euphemism for, yeah.
This feels good.
Yeah, when you Google your apparatus. What is the capacity of the Bridgestone Arena in total? Because I think it's a pretty big place. And what was the crowd they had there for the ultimate garbage match extravaganza of all time that they are insisting on doing every 3 weeks? And I will start out by saying, oh my God. They started this amateur hour production. They set the tone. The very first thing you saw was Alex Marvez, Officer Barbrady himself. He's back. And he was supposedly in the parking garage of the hotel. And nobody has yet told him that he is not a television personality, nor should he play one on TV. So he's, for some reason that they've never done before, they've never had anybody in the parking garage of the hotel, but he is standing by next to Will Ospreay's car so that he can get words about the big show tonight from Will Ospreay, who then Ospreay runs past him to get in the car to go to the show. The show that, by the way, is already on the fucking air. And he looks down and there's a knife stuck in his tire. The old flat tire deal, right? See, Tony has watched a lot of YouTube wrestling videos. He knows some of these angles. He just doesn't know how they were done.
You know who I suspect?
Austin Idol?
Alex Marvez.
The Freebirds. No, Alex Marvez.
Marvez. No one else is there. He's there for no good reason.
Yeah, there was nobody else in the parking lot of the hotel that was actually the goddamn parking facility and ramp in this building, but nevertheless. So, again, he's there to get words from Ospreay about the big show that's already on the air. Ospreay's at the hotel getting in his car to go to the big show that's already on the air. Ospreay finds a knife in his tire. The tire is flat. Ospreay says to Marvez, have you got a car? Yeah. Give me your keys. And he gives him his keys. Now, Marvez, apparently all by himself, has a beautiful white gleaming Chevy Suburban. No wonder the budget they got is amazing. Even the goddamn backstage interviewer gets his own Suburban. And they get in it. Marvez throws Ospreay's bag in through an open window. Ospreay gets in and starts it up. Marvez gets in the passenger seat with the microphone to the camera. And Marvez says, have you ever driven in America? And Ospreay says, no. And then they peel out. He was just going to. He was just going to drive in America before he knew that his tire was flattened or anything was wrong. he was going to get in the car and drive to the show, even though he wasn't leaving the hotel till the show was already on the air. But now it's like, oh my God, have you ever driven here? No. So you were just going to risk your life and the life of other drivers rather than my life.
And then he speeds off and Marvez is like, whoa!
Whoa!
He makes some exaggerated, stupid, fake-sounding sound. It was so ridiculous.
And this is the tone that they set for the night and that they kept through the night with a few exceptions. But whenever Tony's little buddies that play wrestler were involved, up to and including their Blood and Guts garbage championship wrestling extravaganza, was an embarrassment to the business. This is why they're limited. This is why they're stagnant. This is why they're not growing. It's ludicrous bullshit that appeals to a niche audience. So anyway.
You asked about attendance before. The building capacity is 20,000, although the attendance record is 19,365, so let's use that as the number. AEW Dynamite in Nashville, according to WrestleTix, as of yesterday, estimated tickets distributed, 5,009.
And that's good for lately. That means there was only 14,356 empty seats in that arena. All righty then.
Well, they had a double cage. Obviously, that takes away about 7,000 seats.
Well, you know, I didn't think about that. So they were pretty much sold out. So the one thing they did here was they let us just listen to MJF, because why not? At least it's entertaining.
Now, this was against the president's speech, President Biden announcing why he wasn't going to run again. Also in the Northeast, Mets versus Yankees. I mean, it's a national game, but Mets versus Yankees on ESPN. So an interesting spot to put MJF.
Well, they probably weren't. I don't think they knew when they formatted the show that the presidential address was going to take place, but they probably could have checked on the game. But what the fuck? Anybody that wants to watch a real sport is probably not going to want to watch this fucking program. So MJF came out after the package of him and Ospreay last week and the 59-58 Classic and the title change and blah, blah, blah. He comes out with a dozen cheerleaders. And I mean, I can't even, you know, it's an MJF promo. I can't tell you the things, the zingers or the topics he covered or whatever. But early on, the fans were chanting, "Shut the fuck up," over and over, and it was not muted. They didn't mute the whole thing. They didn't try to dip in and get the fuck. But then later on, when he told Will Ospreay to burn your shitty indie kick pads, they censored shitty. So 6 fucks earlier were okay, but shitty was a no-no. And then, good Lord, he doesn't give a shit. It said Ospreay's grandmother died, and now after he gets finished with him, he can dig a grave for himself next to her, but go 100 yards away because that fat skank needs all the room she can get.
Yeah, it got really stiff really quick, didn't it?
It escalated quickly.
It's a big one, yeah. It's a big jump.
It's you know, big jump there. And then he called Ospreay out if he doesn't like it, do something about it. Of course, that's when the announcers reminded us, well, his car was sabotaged. It had to be MJF that did that. Keep him out of here. And then MJF renames the international title to fit his superiority. He threw the old belt in a very conveniently placed garbage can and then unveiled the new American Championship title belt. And we're not talking about Nashville or any place like that. We're talking about real America, Plainview, Long Island, New York. And the belt is red, white, and blue. So at least he's going to get heat off having this stupid fucking belt that he has had redone that nobody gave a shit about because it's one of 100, but his will stand out because he's got it. It's red, white, and blue, and he's going to make something out of it. And I mean, he'll get heat off of the fact that people will hate the belt. And then as soon as it finished with "God bless your American hero, MJF," did you hear the fan yell as clear as day, "Go back to Poughkeepsie"?
I did not hear that, no.
Oh, it's fucking hilarious. As soon as "God bless your American hero, MJF," go back to Poughkeepsie. Because nobody knows where Plainview is, but they've heard of Poughkeepsie. And then they play the patriotic music, and the red, white, and blue streamers fall, and a United States flag falls with MJF's face in place of the stars. And, here's this whole big fucking rigmarole. And then Ospreay runs into the ring then and chases MJF out. And then here we go. Ospreay said something that was censored, and then said asshole that wasn't, and then said dick that was censored, and then revealed the news that he met with Tony Khan and Christopher Daniels, which now bear that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Tony Khan and Christopher Daniels are around and they're calling some shots. They can do some things here. And the rematch between MJF and Will Ospreay is going to be at Wembley Stadium. Imagine, surprise, surprise. And Ospreay's promo voice with that accent, and when he's trying to sound mad and mean, it sounds like a guy trying to shed a basketball, doesn't it?
I got a mouthful of crackers, bro.
Lord Fogg. And then he got the international belt out of the trash can and left with it, so they're going to have the Battle of the Belts, I guess, at Wembley.
This is bizarre on a number of levels. First of all, again, he's now the garbage picker champion. He took the belt out of the garbage can. Again, that was just such a weird ending to this. He looked at it like, oh, my old belt that was just thrown in the trash. For MJF, who's clearly reestablishing himself as a heel and doing a really good job based on crowd reactions, and last week based on ratings too, the idea that he's going to be a heel by being patriotic, it's a little weird, isn't it?
Well, but
against our dreaded enemy, because Cody couldn't finish off a go-go, yeah. England is still our dreaded enemy. What is the feud exactly over?
Well, they're taking little bits and shreds of things. I think they're obviously trying to do some American thing versus the UK with Ospreay and MJF. But at the same time, I think MJF is trying to salvage some logic out of this, it looks like to me, by saying, I'm not talking about Nashville, America, or the redneck America. I'm talking about Plainview, because I think if I didn't know better, I'd say he's having the America, England, red, white, and blue belt thing kind of put upon him, so he's trying to explain it in some kind of way that will still get some heat. But I think just because he's got it, and it's bullshit, and he renamed the belt, I think he'll get some heat with it. As much as we were discussing, it's easier for a heel to get heat by having the number 2 world title belt in WWE than it is a babyface trying to get that over on a par with the number 1 belt.
What do you prefer, American Championship or America's Championship? Because we had both in wrestling history.
Well, yes, because in California, it was the Americas, North and South America. They were in apostrophe S. But in Dallas, it was American, because you were the American champion. I think he ought to be the goddamn... Hold on here. I'm trying to say this. If he could do a goddamn takeoff on that People's Championship belt, and maybe be the Citizens Champion or the...
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's good.
That might be even more fucking weaselly for somebody like MJF, but nevertheless.
It'd be funny because Tony will spend the money if every week he ditches the belt for a new belt.
Just a new belt every week.
Yeah, I've decided I'm now this champion. Let's change the championship again. It's already had 2 different names. Why not?
But anyway, Lee, we get another match between MJF and Ospreay at Wembley, and I would have to think that one is going to have the most appeal to those folks over there.
Guest referee Daniel Garcia.
I don't know if that'll have a lot of appeal.
Well, we'll see.
Maybe a moldy banana peel.
So when did he meet with Tony Khan and Christopher Daniels? Was it before he took Alex Marvez's car, or was it right before this promo? Was it?
Well, see, the hotel is only apparently 3 minutes driving through downtown Nashville to get there, and then another 2 minutes to jump in and run out and everything, because he managed to make it by this point in the interview. But he had to hurry because Chris Daniels, by the time that Ospreay walked back to the entranceway with the discarded title belt, Daniels had already got the shit kicked out of him in the back by the Elite, and were laying at their feet. The effete of the Elite. So it was very opportune timing there. Can we go to the next part of the amateur hour?
Marvez grew up a wrestling fan. He had a newsletter. Obviously, wrestling is one of the things that caused his relationship with Tony Khan to grow past football. How are you this bad on screen if you grew up watching it?
Because some people just don't need to be on television. They're either boring, or they're quiet and inhibited and nervous, or they're overly phony and stagey, because not every one of us can be De Niro or Streep. Some people, you should not hear a peep from them. But speaking of people you shouldn't hear a peep from, this is what I'm talking about. Imagine this scene, ladies and gentlemen. The referee is outside the door of the locker room where they're going to do the coin flip to determine who gets the man advantage in the Blood and Guts match. And they pitch to this, and the referee says, "I'm standing outside the door." And he opens the door and goes in, and there are the Buckaroos, Matty and Nikki, and Jungle Jackoff and O'Cody. And they're standing over Christopher Daniels, and he's already laying on the ground selling. And the referee walks up like, "Well, what happened?" "Oh, he's just taking a nap." So then they tell him, "Let's do the coin flip." And the referee's standing there having a conversation. "Are you sure we should do it?" "Yeah, let's do it." "Okay, well, we're ordering you to do it." And then the referee, Chris Daniels is laying at their feet, semi-conscious, if not unconscious. And then Matty brings out, "We got our own coin." "Oh, okay." And they flip it, and the referee calls it for them, of course, and then the referee walks off. And then they start talking amongst themselves. Daniels is still laying there like he's in a medically induced coma. On camera.
Yeah, what did they do to him?
Apparently they propofol the motherfucker.
Right? What did they? There's no scarring. There's no blood. He's just laying there.
You know what? They should have had a goddamn hose and had a spreading pool of blood that people could watch get bigger and bigger coming from underneath him. And go, what the goddamn? They puncture the goddamn femoral artery? And they say, "Well, where's the hangman?" "Oh, we made a deal. He'll be here." And then they walk off and show the camera that it was a two-headed coin. And apparently Daniels, by that point, had stopped breathing. And what? How can you look at that as an adult and say, "Well, this should air. Let's not take this one again. That's magic there, pal."
It's everything the Bucks touch. And let's not even talk about how ridiculous it looks seeing them and Jack Perry stand there, the least intimidating people on the planet. And Okada at this point, I think everyone's calling it out. This guy took Tony Khan's money, and he is going to coast and have a nice life while he's here working for Tony Khan.
He is on the Foreign Exchange Student Retirement Program.
That's a good way to look at it. And Christopher Daniels back on TV. We think it's Christopher Daniels. It might as well have been a stunt double. We didn't really see him turn around.
He was a bald-headed fellow that laid somewhat like Christopher Daniels lays on the ground. And so now, who's running this fucking thing? And we'll get to it in Blood and Guts. Who's making the rules? Who's overruling the rule makers? And who's supposed to be in charge? Tony said it was Daniels, but Tony's still making matches. But Tony and Daniels will make a match in one segment, and the next segment, the heel EVPs are running around doing shit that in there, and Tony doesn't have any comment on it. He's not even saying, I wish they wouldn't do that.
Well, he's got a lot to deal with. There's been a crime in every segment so far. There was the tire stabbing incident. MJF throwing away AEW's belt could be considered something. And then, of course,
destruction of private property.
Obviously, Christopher Daniels was given a lot of fentanyl or something. I don't know what the fuck happened to him there. But no one looked like they were sweating or worked up like they had hit him. There were no weapons anywhere. He was just laying on the ground and they stood around him. Like you would if you discovered someone laying on the ground. Hey, what's this guy doing there?
But see, here's the thing. If I discovered someone laying on the ground, I would probably attempt to render them some kind of aid, or if I was the person responsible for them being on the ground, I'd probably exit the premises before the cops showed up. But
not wait for the referee so you could do your coin flip?
No, and if I was the person on the ground, when I came around, I would try to get up and leave. None of those things happened.
Was it like one of those movies like where there's like some kind of potion in a fucking syringe and they just like jabbed him and he went down?
No, now you're talking about some shit stain writing there. Remember Abyss and Dr. Stevie Richards?
I didn't watch that. No, I don't remember it.
Well, no, remember I read the format.
Oh, that's right.
Show here.
Oh, I reiterate what I said. I never saw it.
But he left it blank as to what, because he couldn't find the substance that fit what he wanted, so he just said, well, they'll make something up. Anyhow, speaking of making things up, have we not seen Chris Jericho versus Minoru Grandpa Suzuki already?
In Nightmares Nightly, possibly. Yeah. I feel like we have. I mean, I've seen this. I'm going to stand there and chop you, you chop me, let's keep going. I mean, Jericho went to the extreme and he got some blood on his chest, but if you're into them and just seeing old guys do that and then those elbow strikes on the ground and they did a shot of it from the top so you could just see how bad they looked. This was something.
Well, I got some statistics. Because, folks, it was Chris Jericho versus Minoru Suzuki for the FTW title. And when the bell rang, they started the match by going to the middle of the ring and talking to each other. So then Suzuki says, hit me. And Jericho chops him, and Suzuki doesn't sell it or register it and just laughs at him. And then Jericho does the same thing, says, well, hit me. And Suzuki does, and he kind of sells it. Ew, that hurt. And then they repeated that. Hit me, whack. No, hit me, whack. And then they repeated it again. 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 Not as fast as I am talking, though. But that's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They did the same thing 12 times in a row, and it took a while. And then Suzuki just stood there and let Jericho hit on him a while. And then he turned around and chopped Jericho 11 more times. And then Jericho chopped Suzuki 7 more times, but Suzuki didn't sell any of them. And then they traded 28 chops until they went to the break. When they went to the break, it was picture in picture. And I know this will be shocking to some, But for the entire 3.5-minute commercial break, they continued to stand there and chop each other. And when we came back from the break, guess what they were doing? They were trading chops. And I don't know what kind of skin Suzuki has. Maybe he's so old it's calcified into some type of leathery consistency. But Jericho wasn't doing shit to his chest, but Suzuki had chopped Jericho's chest till it was beet red. And when it first started dripping blood, I said, that's legitimate. When it got that bloody, I know that the last time that happened, he was doing it with another one of these Japanese guys. Maybe it was Suzuki. He bladed his chest because it was too much. It was like he goddamn punctured one of his aortas. But this time it could have gone either way. But then, I mean, what wasn't chopping was, I don't want to say embarrassing because it was worse. It was almost pathetic. Jericho clotheslined him one time and Suzuki took a bump like Ox Baker. And then Jericho goes to jump off the turnbuckle. He springs up on the buckle and does the thing where he turns around and does the flying clothesline. He was supposed to get met with a chop, but Suzuki couldn't hit him on the fly, so Jericho sold the same chop twice. And then they fought on the floor, and Suzuki just gets Jericho down on his hands and knees and puts a chair around Jericho's arm. And Jericho sits there and holds it still. And while he's watching Suzuki walk over and pick up another chair and walk over to him and hit the chair. And then he sells his hand. He was watching him. Obviously, he could have just pulled his fucking hand out. And they traded fake forearms on their knees. And then Jericho got the walls of Jericho and Suzuki just got out of it. And then Jericho foiled Suzuki's pile driver, hit him in the balls, hit him with the Judas, and 1, 2, 3. And to quote Frank Spaceman Hickey, fucking cartoon. But then Suzuki got up and gave Jericho a pile driver anyway. And then Brian Keith and Big Bill, who were barred from the ring during the match by special order, apparently were in the second row because they jumped in immediately and jumped Suzuki, and then music played, and here came Shapoopy. And he made the save and beat up all the heels, and they ran off. What the fuck is going on here? Did they have to agree that Suzuki could come back and still beat the fuck out of Jericho if he did a job, and then to get beat up by these other guys, he's going to get a save from Shapoopy? What is going on here?
Not good. Not very good. And then Big Bill and Brian Keith kind of Big Bill's kicks says everyone handles him really gently. Ever since you pointed it out, it's impossible to avoid seeing it. It's everything.
But here's the thing:
and he sells nothing on top of that.
Even if you hit him hard, he won't sell it. But they're treating him, as I've said, like a Fabergé egg. Is that because they're scared of him because he's a legitimate shooter? Then what kind of unprofessional prick? Because somebody didn't even potato you, but just hit you as they would a normal person in a normal wrestling match. Now you're going to stretch him? So he's not asking him to do that. I don't know what the fuck. But no, nobody, he crumples to the mat like a goddamn sack of fucking noodles. And his shit is weak except when it looks really stiff. And everybody's afraid to make contact with him. Yikes. And the combined age here was 109.
And the man that saved him was a man who had his brain removed and put back in his head.
Yeah. And he's the smart one. Anyway, so now we just had a promo where somebody got beat up and laid there for a while, right? So in the back, Willow Nightingale is going to be interviewed by Renee Moxleygood. And she says 3 words. And then suddenly, Stokely comes in from the side and says, we got to talk about something. And Statlander, bam, blindsides Willow and gives her an F5 on the equipment case. And Renee Moxleygood has already run for higher ground.
When did they tape this?
Certainly to God, this has to be live because, again, they would have done it again if this was pre-taped. Because Stokely and Statlander sat on the edge of the case and did a calm promo about the CMLL belt while Willow was laying there selling 2 feet away from them on the fucking case they're sitting on. It looks so fucking fake. And there was a challenge and they're going to have a match at All In or All Out or All Together Now, or you can't always get what you want. Whatever the fuck that is.
All right. Well, that was that segment.
Yes, it was. And we'll go to another segment.
Yeah.
Bryan Danielson was in the back earlier today, is what the Chiron said there, the graphic at the screen with Renee Moxleygood. She didn't look like she was out of breath from the previous segment. And now Jeff Jarrett, because he did a great babyface promo in the Owen Hart Cup tournament, apparently he's the most goddamn level-headed son of a... He's turned into Oliver Douglas on Green Acres. He's the only sane man here. He came in and put Danielson over, gave him a big babyface pep talk. A lot of people believe in you, and I'm at the top of the list. And Danielson is apparently going to grapple with Swerve, from what we're hearing, for the world title in his last match on his full-time career in wrestling. So do you think they'll have Swerve do the job for him so he can retire as champion like they did for Sting?
I don't know. I mean, the other thing is, could they be setting up Jarrett for a bigger role on screen as an authority figure of some sort, as he's establishing himself in a weird and bizarre way, also physically getting involved in stuff?
Well, he's being established as a babyface, but I don't think yet he's an authority figure. Is he a respected veteran mentor to someone? If he can just do some more of the promos for some of these other phony-ass fucking sounding people, that would be fine. You know, on Fast Forward, it looked like it took quite an effort from Britt Baker to beat Hikaru Shida. Would I be correct in that assumption?
You know, on Fast Forward, when I saw Hikaru Shida's hair, and it looks like she's had a few meals since the last time I saw her, I thought it was Jamie Hayter at first.
Oh, come on now.
No, I'm just saying, because she used to be, I thought it was Jamie Hayter at first. And then I was like, that is no Jamie Hayter.
So you're saying you weren't calling Shida fat, you're calling Jamie Hayter fat.
I'm not calling anyone fat. You just called them fat.
Had
That's
a
horrible.
few meals, a few
Sexist.
too many?
Well,
What you're talking about?
She's bigger than I remember her being. At least that's what, I mean, she was, I don't know.
We all flesh out from time to time.
We do.
No reason to shame people about their physique.
Maybe a reason to wrestle in a shirt. I mean, that may be a reason. Yes, we all do sometimes.
Unfortunately, all the women in AEW have to wrestle in shirts, but we're trying to get that rule struck down.
Listen, you've degenerated this. What segment is this? Who was in this?
This was... So Britt Baker beat Hikaru Shida by the skin of her teeth.
That's right.
And then they played music. And it was Mercedes Moon. And you know what? I got a new slogan for him, Brian. This is going to make some money. When you hear the moan, the fans all groan. What do you think?
It's funny. I don't know if it's going to take off, but it's funny.
I think it'll take off better than CEO, because the only way they could get that thing over was to pre-tape it. I mean, and here's what happened. The people booed her, and I still think it sounds like boo, like, oh, goddamn her again, booing. And she came down to the ring and delivered a memorized statement with the most microscopic soupçon of acting ability that can be possible and still have it present. And suddenly, in the ring, boom, from behind, Britt Baker gets blindsided by Camille, old Hurricane Camille from the NWA. So we heard that, and I'm hoping she doesn't rue the day, but she was finished with the NWA. Weren't we hearing she was going to NXT, or that's what people thought?
We heard that they didn't want her, or that whatever happened. We heard that Tony had signed her, but this was in like January, and then
did I hear? Okay, then I've forgotten. January. Well, no wonder I forgot. It's been 6 fucking months.
I think it was. It was a while ago. She signed with them a while ago, and we had not seen her at all.
All right. Well, the point is, oh, boy, I like her. She's big. She's got a look. She's in shape, right? From what I've seen of her, her work has progressed. However, she's now stuck in this thing with Mercedes as if Mercedes was Shawn Michaels, then Camille is Diesel. And Camille beat up Britt Baker and put her into the torture rack, and then Blue Thunder Bomb. Why isn't there a Blue Hell Bomb instead of a Blue Thunder Bomb? What in the blue hell did you get that bomb from? And the announcers put her over, and she looks great, and et cetera, and she's stuck with Mercedes Moon. That's what I saw.
Yeah, it's weird. Camille, I haven't seen too much of her because, fuck the NWA. I don't watch that. And she's big. Like, that's her big thing. She's kind of just a big, muscular woman. We've seen that character a few times. Chyna, Jade.
Well, but now, come on.
No, I'm just saying, that's her thing. She's just like a big, muscular woman.
I'm just saying, don't throw asides, because I've seen Camille actually move around a little bit.
Well, those kicks weren't looking that good on this show. But my point is, she's big. It kind of takes away some of that when Sasha Banks gets in the ring and she's wearing 12-inch heels. They're the same height. Did you see that? She was the same height as Camille. Why? Then you take away the whole idea. I have this giant bodyguard here to fuck people up.
That's why I'm saying they got Camille and she's with Mercedes. Well, we'll see what's going to happen down the road.
So now Britt Baker has to get Jamie Hayter. Right? Who's going to level the playing field?
Somebody better start checking. Does Tony Khan own a real estate development company? Have they put in any subdivisions lately? Somebody better start jackhammering driveways up to find Jamie Hayter.
Where's Mel? Where's Mel?
Oh, Mel, she's at the bottom of the river.
Mel? That's my favorite character that went nowhere. Mel. That was her name. Mel.
That's why they had to start putting people under the concrete, because when they dumped them in the river, they would surface every once in a while. Now they're permanently getting rid. There's got to be some kind of bottomless pit.
There is a bottomless pit, and I believe it was coming up here on the show. What was the next segment?
Well, hold on. First of all, Christian Cage and company were in the back. Nick Plain, Mama Plain, Dino Douche. And Christian does the promo, and then they said, and now, Nick, you've earned the right to make your feelings known. And they handed him the microphone, and everybody else in the group walked off on him like no one does ever. And he starts doing a promo, and he says 5 words, and he gets distracted. And he's talking to somebody off camera and walks over to him, and I'll tell you, I didn't know who the fuck it was. In a minute, I'll tell you. He said, I keep seeing you. What are you doing? Are you following me? I'll throw you out of a battle royal on Friday. Out of what the fuck? And nobody cares that your dad is dead. And the delivery was horrible. The material was rotten. And the announcers had to tell it, well, there's Pip Sabian. He's got a new haircut. Now he's trying to look like, well, he got a haircut like a normal human. It's still yellow, but it's cut appropriately, and he has a little beard neatly trimmed. So we saw him, a fucking year ago, and they just suddenly think that everybody's going to remember who this fucking guy is. I thought there was some crew guy they were going to beat up.
Yeah, what happened to his dad? I've never even heard about Kip Sabian's dad.
Well, he's dead.
Since when?
I didn't know his dad. I wasn't even aware he was sick.
Why is he hanging out just like in the corner of the building? Like they were just in the hallway.
He's watching them do pre-tapes. But they thought that was the way to put the spotlight on Nick Plain. Take him out of the group. The group will just walk off and leave him, so then he can have an altercation with a guy that was obviously standing there because he walked 5 feet.
Do you think Mrs. Wayne ever thought she was going to end up with a regular weekly job doing this when Nick first signed with AEW?
I bet you not. I bet you she never thought she was going to end up with a full-time job doing this. I bet you when Nick signed, she thought there may be a chance. I don't think they had to drag her kicking and screaming into this. She seems like she's enjoying the wardrobe budget, if nothing else.
All right, well, moving on here with Dynamite.
9 o'clock Eastern, Pac versus fat guy with other fat guy and other guy that's not so fat. That was that match. And then we go to, by the way, that was what they gave the 9 o'clock hour. So we'll see when we talk about the ratings. But Team AEW, and this is so confusing because it actually, old Sockface, Excalibur, when he was doing trying to attempt to do some of his commentary on the Blood and Guts match, he called the Elite Team AEW because shouldn't Team AEW be consistent of the people that are involved in the AEW corporate office and hierarchy?
Yeah, Team AEW doesn't consist of any of the people who are the highest paid or have the most power.
Yes. It's a bunch of middle card fucking folks that, have decided that they're going to band together to stop the AEW office people from taking over AEW. And they don't like each other over at Team AEW because Darby is pissed that Swerve calls himself the leader and Swerve will fight Darby anytime, but Caster and Bowens, they'll fight all of them because somehow they're mad at, God, I don't know, Darby. I don't fucking know. And then Mark Briscoe jumped in and at least did a fired up promo and kind of got them on the same page. But again, you can drive a fucking 747 through the holes in all of the logic in who's fighting who for what. And also, the heel team AEW just had a 5-on-5 garbage extravaganza, and they won. So then the team that won said, oh, no, we want to challenge you to Blood and Guts instead of the baby faces banding together to make the heels. Help me.
There is no help. I don't know what you're expecting here.
All right. Then Maria May beat Whoozy Whatsy.
This was all right.
And Tony Storm came in dressed like Michael Myers in one of those fucking gas station jumpsuit outfit overall things. And they had a big pull apart, and Tony Storm screeched in the microphone, and I don't know what she said. And that was that. Now we come to the main event of the evening. Blood and Guts. Brian, I have a notation here. When this fiasco started, there were 42 minutes left in the program. And you just know they're going to have an overrun. So they are huffing their own methane to the point where they think that people were going to goddamn sit through almost an hour of this constant mayhem and phoniness and gimmickry after gimmickry. And I don't know what the ratings will bear out. But Jesus Christ, after you got 20 minutes in, you'd pretty much seen everything. They just start doing shit over again until the end when they did more shit. You want to give your thoughts, and then I'm just going to paraphrase a few of the things that took place here.
I don't really have too much to say. I'll give AEW credit. At least their War Games has a roof. At least it kind of has some of the rules and elements of the classic War Games, because I don't like the WWE version of what they call War Games. AEW's has more of that. However,
did the classic War Games have a Home Depot under the ring?
Well, I was going to say the problem is this is the thing that plagues every AEW big brawl like this. It becomes silly, it becomes comedy, it becomes weapons, it becomes trying to get oohs and ahs. We've seen a few times, and Anthony Bowen's here, guys take bumps because I guess they want the big pop, but when you see someone looking back to set up the bump, it doesn't really ring the same way. This was their big thing they've been building up. Tony Khan got beat up by these guys. And it really didn't feel like that big of a deal. And it was all over the place. It was a shit show. I thought the staple spots specifically and the scissors to the mouth of Jack Perry were spots that were kind of pretty big turnoffs in terms of what would make you want to watch something else on another channel. But this is what they've been building up for. It was quite the spectacle. It went a long, long time. And I'm sure more thoughts will come to me as you're talking about it.
Well, I just made shorthand notes. They started with a chair shot and a power bomb into the cage. And 30 seconds in...
Who started?
Oh, I'm sorry. Jungle Jackoff and Darby Allin. They were the first two, and they were using the stairs within 30 seconds, and Darby took a bump over the railing onto a young lady in the front row. Stephen Pinu. We'll talk more about him in a minute. They went to the back of the arena because you can come and go in this thing in various fashions. They hadn't even gotten in the cage to start. They started the fight and fought all over the arena, but then later on, they're just going to get wire cutters. So they got a garbage can in the ring. They got a rope. The next one out was Nikki of the Lollipop Guild. He came out with a chair and a suitcase. And I think he got some element of the groaning booze also. And they beat up Darby.
It hit me here just how small everyone was.
Well, yes, let's see. You got Jack Perry, you got Darby Allin. Right there's 300 pounds. Then you got Nikki. Now you're up to 65, 70. So it's three allegedly full-grown men that don't weigh 500 pounds. And at least then Mark Briscoe came in. He's full-grown. He made a comeback. He fires the crowd up. At least he gets the idea that maybe we ought to make this exciting instead of just stupid. But then he throws the ladder in the ring and beat him up with a ladder. So now we got a ladder in there. And then Maddie came out with a title belt and another suitcase. And then they started bleeding. Mark was bleeding. And they beat Darby up over and over. I saw a crutch in the ring. And somebody must be mad at Anthony Bowens. When he came in, he made started making a comeback, and they just shut him down in seconds. And then the other faces got up and made a comeback that was longer than the fresh guys. And then we had Darby jump off onto one of the buckaroos with the thumbtack skateboard. And then, you mentioned the scissors. Bowens got a pair of scissors and stabbed Jungle Jackoff in the head with them 12 times and then put him across his mouth like they were trying to cross-face him with the scissors. Of course, he didn't end up with a Glasgow smile, so the scissors must have been fake, because he also didn't... He got a pap smear of blood from his head off of being stabbed repeatedly by a grown man with viciosity 12 times in the head with the point of the scissors. Cody came in with a street sign that said Rainmaker Drive, and all the baby faces had to run into him to let him hit him because he's not athletic enough to go after him anymore. More notes. Max Caster came in, made a comeback with his microphone and his bling chain and a chair, and then went looking under the ring and got the barbed wire board out. Here's another thing. Yes, there's another use for a chair, another use for a crutch, another use for a garbage can. But what is that? What is a barbed wire board? What is its practical everyday use? Why would it be under there?
If you're asking me, I've never seen one outside of wrestling ever.
Exactly. So what the... And they not only hip tossed, but then body slammed Bowens onto the barbed wire board, then put another barbed wire board on top of him, and then did a senton onto that board and sandwiched him. And Brian, you notice something about the barbed wire? Apparently it's fucking fake, because all that happened and his body was not bleeding. You've attempted to climb over at some point in your life real barbed wire, have you not?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Well, it don't work that way, does it?
I would presume not.
Well, I can guarantee you not. And then they put thumbtacks in Caster's mouth and super kicked him. And then they played Hangnail Page's music, but he didn't come out. And when everybody was distracted, the baby faces made their comeback. And then Swerve's music plays. And Hangnail jumped him from behind with a chair and then handcuffed him to the outside of the cage and beat him up. Punched him, if I'd have counted, probably about 70, 80 times. And then Maddie stopped everything by getting on the microphone and telling Page that if he didn't get in the ring, he was fired. And so Page gets in the ring, and then Maddie makes the referee ring the bell. Well, if either one of these guys can tell the referee what to do, why are they even having the fucking match? And apparently Tony Khan is okay with it because he never argues with these people, even though he makes every other match on the goddamn program. And then now the match is officially underway. Now, at this point. So then, by the time they come back from a break, one of Swerve's handcuffs said he's out of it. I don't know what happened. And Jeff Jarrett comes out and breaks a guitar over Brandon Cutlet's head. And then Jeff and Billy Gunn get bolt cutters and cut Swerve loose, and they get wire cutters. And Swerve cuts the wire and gets in the cage and makes a big comeback. And then everybody lays there on the ground and watches Swerve and Page fight for a while. And then everybody did something to everybody else. And then Swerve gets a staple gun, which we've seen this stupid shit before. But this time, Maddie opens one of the suitcases that he brought out, and they pull out 5 staple guns. And they all start stapling Swerve, and obviously they're not loaded, because they're all 5 of them, and they're just shooting it, boom, boom, boom. And Swerve starts laughing about it and gets one of the staple guns and staples everybody else, and that's a break spot. And in the break, somehow they all got out of the cage, and they were fighting in the entranceway. And they've got 2 or 3 tables in the cage now, and they've set up 4 on the floor, 2 beside each other, 2 stacked on top of them. And that's where they knock Bowens off the side of the cage through 3 of the 4 tables. One of them didn't cooperate. And it was like when that fat fucking useless Luther, when he took his pirouette swan dive off the goddamn stage a few weeks ago, it's like they get hit, and then they look back, and then they leap off it is fucking hokey as fuck. And that takes him out of the deal.
Sammy did that too. Didn't he do it in one of these War Games matches?
Yes. It's all because they're so high up. They got to pay attention to where they're going. They just can't make it look real, but they don't care because they're stupid and they're not professional. And their small group of fans eats this shit up like it's ice cream. Oh, look, he broke something. So at that point, that was 10 o'clock. So we're 42 minutes into this fucking thing. And then more people got put through tables. And Darby did a coffin drop off the roof of the cage onto Jungle Jack off on a fucking table. And then the other suitcase had handcuffs in it. And they handcuffed Jungle Jack off to the cage stretched out like the crucifixion symbolism. And Mark Briscoe wore him out with a kendo stick and then crowned him right over the fucking head with a chair. And I don't really have any sympathy because I don't think the guy's got a brain in his head anyway, but if he did, it wouldn't be working today as a result of it. He's an empty-headed dipshit anyway. We've got that on authority of Dr. CM Punk.
Well, some people did jump on this, including briefly before it was deleted in a tweet, Corey Graves just criticizing taking that kind of chair shot. AEW's defense, apparently, I believe I read from Dave Meltzer, was that the chair was sawed down. Whatever that means.
I'm sorry, no, what?
The chair was sawed down.
Okay, I've never... Number one, it was a metal chair.
Yes.
And what are sawed down? It didn't matter how tall it was or how long it was. It's the hardness of the chair and the hardness of the shot over the head with the chair, which looked pretty goddamn good. It made the dull thudding sound like a piece of something hard hitting an empty object. So it wasn't a foam rubber chair. And how would you saw a chair down to make the impact lessen?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, anyway, I've worked a lot of magic and seen a lot of magic worked with a lot of ordinary household items to make gimmicks, but I've never heard of sawing a chair down.
Can you gimmick the chair? Because I see here, someone sent me that, but I'm not seeing that in the Observer. In the Observer, he says, while the chair may have been gimmicked, this stuff shouldn't be allowed.
Well, remember the story with Dusty and Big Bubba? Dusty wanted Klondike Bill to gimmick the wooden chair so that it would break over Bubba's head, and he forgot to gimmick it. It broke anyway. You can gimmick a wooden chair. I don't know, unless you're going to make a folding chair out of some lighter weight material or there's some padding process that I'm not aware of. I don't see how you can gimmick a metal chair. We shall see.
We shall see. And again, I'm not seeing any place. The thing I sent, I don't want to say that Dave definitely said they sawed down the chair if it's not here. I don't see it.
I mean, did they loosen up the screws that hold the seat in so it would flip easier? That still doesn't soften the blow. It just makes the reaction of the chair to the blow look more picturesque. But nevertheless, Darby goes under the ring and gets a can of gasoline in quotation marks, and a lighter, and goes and pours the gas on old Jungle Jack. And he turns around and he can't find the microphone. He's like, somebody give me the mic. And finally he says, I'm going to light you on fire unless you give me a title match at All In and quit. And now this, again, they've just turned this Weasel Perry heel. And he's one of the smaller guys in the company. And he's very effete looking himself. And you would think that he would be a cowardly little obnoxious heel, right? But no, he's up there crucified on the cage. He's already bleeding. He's He's got gas poured on him and they're going to set him on fire, but he will not capitulate. He won't give it. He will not negotiate with the terrorists. He said, fuck you. So now Matty is down on his knees in front of Darby Allin, begging with him, pleading with him, please. Okay, you've got the match. So now Matt Jackson is making matches in the middle of a match on behalf of AEW where they're fighting Team AEW, even though they're vice presidents of AEW. And if he wanted a match that bad, Darby, with Jungle Jack, why didn't he goddamn just go to Tony Khan, who doesn't need to be threatened or coerced? He just gives the baby faces the matches they want.
We've literally seen people say that they want a match, and he'll say, that's a good idea, you got it.
In 7 seconds. No, so Matt says, don't light him on fire, you got the match. And then Darby tells little Matt, tell him to say I quit, or I'll light him on fire. And then he says, you say I quit, or I'll light him on fire. And then there's back, I already said it. We'll say it again. We quit. So this fucking 45-minute panorama of every obnoxious, phony, fake, stupid, silly, indie level garbage wrestling match that was chaos from start to finish ended with an extended promo in the ring with nobody doing anything to anybody. And now here, before I open this up to the floor for questions and comments, Brian, I said I had a lot of questions in the logic and the loopholes. And the biggest one is, the last time they set this same guy on fire with a flamethrower, and he came back to win the match. Jungle Jackoff, right? They set him on fire with a flamethrower. He came back and he won the last 5-on-5 garbage match 2 months ago. Why would he now be impressed or intimidated by a half-gallon of gasoline and a Bic lighter? Your thoughts?
Why would the heel refuse to give up no matter what?
He's got principles, damn it.
The booking of this was out of control. You wonder how much is Tony, how much are the Jacksons? But the finish was not only a big fart in the face of the fans, because it was just an awful finish to a War Games match, but Jack Perry, unless you're about to turn him babyface, and why would you do that right away, even though he's ineffective as a heel, or ineffective as a heel, whatever the fuck it is.
It's ineffective.
Ineffective, I was right.
Feckless.
You know, this was one of the worst War Games I've ever seen. Again, and now with AEW, every War Games you see, they end up on top of the cage, they have to go out of the cage, you need weapons. You didn't need to used to have to do all that. Also, the crowd would be loud. They had their moments and their pops and their oohs and ahs. There were moments of silence. The crowd didn't react at all to Matt Jackson getting in the ring. Go watch that.
Well, yeah, generally the silence comes from one of the Cucamonga kids.
Yeah. And Jack Perry presented as a babyface there at the end. I guess we're going to get Swerve and Adam Page at Wembley, if I had to guess.
No, I think we're getting Swerve and goddamn Danielson.
Oh, that's right. We are getting Swerve and Danielson.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, well, I'm glad he beat the shit
It'd be better
out of...
than Swerve and Page again.
Well, it seemed like that's where they were going when he beat the shit out of Swerve, in the match here.
Everybody beats Swerve up.
No, but this was excessive and too much. And again, it's one thing if it's all of that, and they're like big guys that you think would be in a fight like this. Look at the Jacksons and Jack Perry. It's ridiculous. Bowens blew it kind of on that spot with the looking back, because everyone noticed it. What else could I say about this match?
Well, I mean,
Darby's established that skateboard, so I got no problem with him using that. That's actually just some stupid thing that's been established, but even the thumbtacks in someone's mouth, we've seen that before.
Well, yeah, besides that, did you see that Maddie was bleeding worse from the thumbtack skateboard than when they sandwiched the guy in what was purported to be barbed wire? It's ridiculous. It's phony. It's just a stunt show to gratify the small number of people that go to see these assholes just continue to do stunts. And I guarantee you that these guys think they're so creative. None of them are sitting there thinking, what opponent could I have in this company? What angle could we do? What personal issue could we start that would lead to a program that would draw some money that could build to this? They're thinking up shit to fall off of and shit to break and stunts to do and falls to take. That's all they think about. They don't think about how to make the business bigger because they don't care. They get the same thing regardless. They're marks themselves. They think, how can I have more fun and do a wow cool thing? And then I can bring all my friends over to the house and we can watch the video of me falling off the roof through a flaming fucking toilet seat, head first, whatever. That's what they're doing. Nobody is bothering to think about how to build themselves and their business. They're thinking of fucking bumps to take.
Well, to clarify what I said earlier, when Dave Meltzer commented on Corey Graves' tweet, which has been deleted, he wrote, "I know he deleted the tweet, but I was thinking the same thing. Even with a shaved-down chair, there are far too many wrestlers over the decades who have had issues later in life."
A shaved-down chair? You said a sawed-off chair.
I said sawed off.
Down.
Yeah, I meant
whatever,
shaved down. But still, what's that?
What the fuck? What is that? That means did they grind the seat down to where it was thinner? Dude, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, what tool does that?
Well, get us one of those seat shaving fucking grinders down at Home Depot. We'll wait. But that's and what do you follow this with in 2 more months? What kind of? We're gonna put them on a goddamn thing that's floating in the middle of fucking shark-infested waters. Yeah.
Well, that was AEW Dynamite. And Jim, why don't we talk about the AEW Dynamite ratings? Let me pull them up here. Well, here they are, Jim, the AEW Dynamite ratings. AEW Dynamite, July 24th on TBS, 8 to 10:07 p.m. On average, 786,000 viewers.
So they lost 10,000 people from last week to come in to watch their ultimate bloody gutty match.
Last week,
what was it, 795 or whatever?
795 was last week, so 1%.
Well, I mean, maybe if they advertised that they were going to literally pour molten lava on a motherfucker who was strapped down in the ring, they could get back up over 800,000.
The key demo versus last week, 18 to 49-year-old males, down 4% to 0.27. But let's go now. These are compiled by WrestleNomics, the quarterly hour breakdown. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The Will Ospreay backstage angle, a.k.a. him and Marvez playing in the parking lot. The MJF live promo and Will Ospreay's return. The Elite, Christopher Daniels backstage angle. 864,000 viewers. And 388 in the key demo, the high point on both counts.
Well, there you go. The old story, they got an audience. Where do they go from here? Can they keep them?
We go to quarter 2, 8:15, 8:30 p.m. Chris Jericho versus Minoru Suzuki.
Ooh, boy, this was a bad one to put in that place.
With picture-in-picture ads. 768,000 viewers.
Wow, so 96,000 people just said, "See you later, pal. Sayonara, Suzuki."
Well, again, as we've said before, quarter 2 sometimes is the true number. But we go now to quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. The continuation of Jericho versus Suzuki, the post-match with the Learning Tree. I guess that's the name of his faction?
Yes.
As well as his interview
and
segment?
all of his branches.
So wait, he's the Learning Tree, his faction is the Learning Tree, and his interview segment is the Learning Tree?
Yeah, well, a trademark.
Shibata getting involved.
Shipoopy.
Enough of that. Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander's backstage angle with Stokely Hathaway. An ad break. The Jeff Jarrett pep talk to Bryan Danielson. And the start of Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker. 778,000 viewers.
Good Lord, there was a lot of landmines in there, and they managed to gain 10,000. That's surprising.
Well, we go now to quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m. Shida versus Baker continued. The post-match with Mercedes Moné and Camille. The Patriarchy interview and confrontation with Kip Sabian. 750,000 viewers.
So they lost 28,000. They started at 864 for the hour. They end the hour at 750. That's not as bad as it has been in the past. They're sticking around trying to wait this thing out to see this match, I guess.
Well, we go now to the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter 5, 9 to 9:15 p.m. Pac versus Boulder.
Oh, boy.
The Team AEW backstage promo. Mariah May versus Caitlin Alexis, who got dropkick right in the face. I don't know if you saw that. And the post-match with Toni Storm. A Blood and Guts video. And an ad break. 732,000 viewers.
And again, they've done a lot worse. And with that match, it appears that a good portion of their audience is going to try to stick around and see this thing.
Well, we go now to quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. The start of Blood and Guts with picture-in-picture. The Elite versus Team AEW. 758,000 viewers.
Yeah, so they've gone 768, 778, 750, 732, 758. So they're hanging around for the people who like that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing those people like.
Well, they liked it into quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The continuation, once again, Team AEW versus the Elite with picture-in-picture ads. 811,000 viewers.
Whoa! Well, son of a gun, wouldn't you know who won the pony?
Dusty.
But now, wait a minute.
He came up with the concept. Dusty won the pony.
Now that I'm looking at their overall number, they almost have to go downhill from here. They should have done a better average.
Well, we go now to quarter 8. I remind you we have an overrun. 9:45 to 10 p.m. Once again, the Elite versus Team AEW with 2 times of picture-in-picture. 801,000 viewers. 6-minute overrun, 10 to 10:06 p.m. 853,000 viewers.
Okay, well, again, the overrun, we usually take it. There's the 52,000 people in total that we're going to try to watch Modern Family.
Listen, if you start with quarter 2 and you end at quarter 8 like we've traditionally done, it's a very small range of people coming and going. 768, quarter 2. 801, quarter 7. Or quarter 8, actually, me.
Yeah, is this the first time that they have done, that I can ever remember, doing a higher viewership in quarter 8 than in quarter 2? When have they ever started higher than or when have they ever finished higher than they started? And I know they started here at 864, but that's the Big Bang leftovers.
And again, the president spoke at 8 o'clock. A lot of things happening. It definitely goes above the trend line for 90 days. It does not usually do this, to answer your question. And the same thing with the key demo. The key demo went up at the end of the show for the match. So whatever you want to say about the ineptness of the Elite and how not over they are, you have to think this concept, this kind of match on TV is.
Well, yeah.
At least to this amount of people, 800,000 people.
It's an advertised car wreck. But then the problem becomes, what do you top it with? And if they do it again, they did the same thing last time when they have the anarchy in the arena or football field fuckery or whatever. Yeah, they'll pop a number for that, but then they come back in ever increasingly smaller increments. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. And this is going to be normal. And then what do?
What does someone at the network think if they watched anything during this match? Again, there used to be a fear with wrestling, specifically WWE, but eventually in the 90s, it affected everyone. Forget advertiser friendly. You didn't want to do things that you would have to later clarify kids should not try.
Yeah.
That staple gun spot where they're all surrounding Swerve and staple gunning him. You know, I don't know. I thought that was kind of a step too far during this match, to me.
But it doesn't bother me in that way. It bothers me as a professional in the wrestling industry, but it doesn't bother me in that way because I don't think kids are this stupid.
Well, plus kids aren't watching. Again, it's a different world now than at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. But still, again, talking about what the network would see, the scissor spot with Jack Perry.
I don't know why this whole program wasn't fucking kiboshed when they went from the pizza cutter from the bank-addicted drug robber to the domino spot. I don't see why that wasn't the end of it. But now, with audiences dwindling for everything, TV network standards have loosened because they'll put up with more to get an audience because it's like, Trump normalized being batshit crazy and lying out your fucking ass in every time you open your mouth until the point where people don't notice it as much. And it's the same thing. People are willing to let this shit go by because their audiences are all dwindling. But no, this wouldn't have flown anywhere in television history up until now. This guy, when they started chanting, "Shut the fuck up," instead of bleeping the fuck, I have a feeling that USA 20 years ago would have said, we'll start taping your program or you can go on down the road. But now they put up with shit like that. Anyway, well, there was the ratings.
On the topic of Jack Perry, a photo making the rounds on social media, Drew McIntyre posted a photo of himself with Jack Perry, famous of the CM Punk All-In backstage incident. Any thoughts on this? It was later deleted by Drew McIntyre. A lot of people think that's part of the gimmick, or someone may have said, please take that down, but no one knows for sure what's going on. And that's the point. No one knows for sure what's going on.
Well, I don't know where he ran into Jungle Jack, but that's perfect because obviously Drew is trying to troll Punk, and the whole thing with Jungle Jack at the choke for all instead of brawl for all. And I love the titles and the memes they made out of it because look at Drew McIntyre going out of his way to please this Make-A-Wish kid because he's like 1.5 feet taller and 100 pounds heavier. So it looks like some guy taking his, kid to fucking grade school. But I don't think that anybody in WWE made Drew McIntyre take that down. I think it's somebody in AEW probably called and yelled at old Jungle Boy. So what the fuck are you doing? You're playing into their deal, helping them draw money when you can't draw any for us. And he probably had to call Drew and say, oh, can you take that down? I'm getting all kinds of heat. Because the WWE would have laughed at it. Yeah, look, even the amateur hour fucking personnel is taking fan pictures with our top talent. So I bet you that Tony Khan got his panties in a bunch or something about that and had old Jack Boy take that down.
Well, what do you think of Drew McIntyre doing this, them using this as part of the ongoing feud between Punk and him?
I think it's fucking classic. Again, it's the only thing that Perry is known for these days. And for those who, the majority of the WWF audience or WWE audience wouldn't really know or wouldn't really care. But for the ones that do, it was perfect. And as somebody made the point that I think before it was taken down, it got like 2 million views or whatever. So more people saw Drew's picture with the guy to promote his match with Punk at SummerSlam than actually saw the AEW television program this past week. About 2.5 times.
And if you really think about it, the guy's whole gimmick is based around the incident with Punk, the scapegoat.
Yeah. So here, Drew found a kindred spirit there. We both hate Punk. And it's for those who know, it was a brilliant troll. For those who don't know, it doesn't matter because they don't know who the fuck Perry is. But yeah, I liked it.
Do you think CM Punk should think about suing?
Well, I'll tell you what. If he did, then I know who he ought to call, because when you sue somebody, you also get to interview them, interrogate them, depose them, and there is no litigator. There's not even a fornicator, much less a litigator, that'll depose you in the rapid manner that this man will.
Call Stephen P. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Those are the rest.
Brian, have you ever sat down and read a transcript or watched in action the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen P. New of newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE? Have you watched him interrogate somebody, put them under the hot, grueling lights and depose them, give a deposition? He swears them in under oath. And then, boy, howdy, I tell you what, you would rather piss off a pit bull while you're wearing milk bone underwear than get this son of a coal miner after you. He will ask the questions, you'll give the answers, and you'll do it with a smile on your face, or he will slap you in your corpus Christi with a habeas corpus. And everybody knows what that does to your corpuscles. Stephen P. New is a bulldog in the courtroom and in the pre-trial procedures that they go through, and he will rip you a new one. And don't start playing that music now. He'll rip you a new one if you give him half the chance. So stay on his good side, retain him to get even with you or for you with these other people that have wrongfully terminated you, poisoned you, been disadvantageous to your personal health because of negligence or outright criminality. By cracky, Stephen P. New is going to bring them to justice and make them pay you. Get even with Stephen at newlawoffice.com.
All right, well, before we get out of here, and I wanted to do retro figures and, yes, the program, but we ran long. We're definitely going to do them next week because you have something on the way to you that we're going to talk about. But Jim, let's
Will it show up on my front porch?
I'll find out who's going to be bringing it over there. Maybe my friend from Virginia Beach. Jim, let's preview SummerSlam, which is coming up, which we will be reviewing next week on the show, one of the shows. Experience, I think. But why don't we talk about it here? SummerSlam from Cleveland, Ohio.
Well, it's going to be shaping up, or has been shaping up nicely. We got the Drew and the Punk match. We've got some of these other things. It's all becoming clear. SummerSlam was in Cleveland in 1996, by the way. That was at the Gund Arena, and that was Vader and Shawn Michaels, and that's the first night I saw a Buffalo Wild Wings. Went in there, and boy, howdy. They were good back then. I don't know what the fuck's happened to them. Possibly poor management here in the Louisville area. What was the topic?
The preview of SummerSlam, Cleveland.
Well, have you got the matches? Then I got the views.
I've got the matches here. For the World Heavyweight Championship, the champion Damian Priest versus Gunther.
We've said it. Gunther needs this. He can do something with it. with this title, he also is more over at this point than poor Priest, and I think it would be best serving everybody. Gunther gets a major win and has a new championship belt and is one of the two top singles guys. Priest is the victim of some malfeasance or malpractice by some member of the Judgment Day doing what they should have known not to do, and that leads him in a different direction, and off we go to the races. My Gunther, he's our man. If he can't win it, well, fuck it.
For the WWE Women's Championship, Bayley, the champion, versus Nia Jax.
Well, I'd like to say that I'm going to watch this match and break it down in granular detail with the ins and outs of the thing, but actually the thing is I can already tell that I'm probably going to have to take a crap right about that time in the show, but the way they've been using the refrigerator there, I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't win it.
The way they've been using her. Her cousin, you mean? You wouldn't be surprised she's going to win it because she's Dwayne Johnson's...
Well,
whatever you want to say, I don't know what to say.
Well, no, she's a cousin, a family tree member, but no, I mean they've been pushing her despite the fact that, oh God, just the voice and the promos and the blah. They've tried to get the most out of her. They've gotten the most out of her that they ever have on this run. I'm afraid they might want to put the belt on her. Or at least put the belt over her shoulder. I'm pretty sure it won't fit around the equator.
All right, will you be nice?
But poor Bayley for having to fucking try to get something out of this. The Plowboy Frazier of women's wrestling.
For the Women's World Championship.
I thought you just said that.
No, that was the WWE Women's Championship.
Oh, God damn it.
This is the Women's World Championship. The champion, Liv Morgan, versus Rhea Ripley.
I would like to say I'm going to like this because Rhea is involved in it, but if Liv has more than 4 offensive moves, I'm going to be disgusted by the whole thing because come the fuck on. But we'll see what, besides the...
That may be what they say to Dominic during the match.
Come the fuck on? See, that only if English was their second language would they... they say that in any kind of double...
Maybe she's into Yoda and she wants to talk like that.
Come on me and fuck, then could be something like that. But I want to see Rhea. They got the story. Rhea's a superstar, a mega star, a shooting star, shining star for you to see what your life can truly be. But Rhea better win this fucking thing.
Well, we will see what happens there. For the Intercontinental Championship, the champion Sami Zayn versus Bron Breakker.
Boy, you know what? Here is every belt gonna change hands in one spectacular swell foop or fell swoop or whatever it is?
Foop.
Swell foop. It's a swell foop. Let's say that Bayley keeps the women's belt and Liv somehow keeps the other women's belt because not only does Priest need to lose his to Gunther, but I think Sammy needs to lose his to Bron. This is normally you say, well, yeah, most of the champions need to, but in this, everybody needs to lose these things.
So you're predicting Bron Breakker?
I don't know if I'm anticipating it. I'm wanting it. I'm trying to manifest it with my positive thinking. Sometimes when you stare at a TV screen long enough over a long period of time, trying to visualize something happening in front of you that you desperately want to happen, sometimes it happens and sometimes it's just that close. And I think Bron Breakker should win this particular title, but I'm not sure that he's going to do so. But I think he should.
For the United States Championship, the champion Logan Paul versus LA Knight.
God damn it.
Same thing.
LA Knight needs to win this. Logan Paul has mega heat because he's an annoying fucking celebrity with a big mouth. But LA Knight needs to win something sooner or later, or his over is going to be negatively impacted. So now we can say the same thing. I don't think that Logan Paul will be hurt in his drawing power by losing the belt to LA Knight, because he is a heel and got a big mouth. But I think LA Knight, a baby face that never delivers the goddamn milk to the fucking Widow Ripley, is, you're just, no. Sooner or later, they're going to go, well, fuck, he never does anything.
All right, so you're predicting, or you?
Well, they ain't going to switch 10 fucking belts in one night. So I don't, but boy, they need to do a couple of things here. I wish LA Knight and Bron Breakker and Gunther would win those matches. The girls can have the cat fights amongst themselves for the girls' title, because actually that doesn't mean anything because they're girls.
What was that voice?
That was the misogynist on Twitter.
Well, let's go to the misogynist match next. No, that's not what it is, but in a singles match, Seth Franklin Rollins as the special guest referee, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre.
You can't call this one, because depending on the finish, and I'm saying how the finish is done, how Seth is involved, how it's laid out, either guy can win and either guy can lose, and it's still, we're going to want to see a rematch and or what else. So I don't know. I mean, in the old days, you'd go with the heel to get the heat in the first match, but depending on what idea they've got to how to intermingle Seth, that might not be the thing. But one way or another, Seth needs to be involved, and they can do anything and come out okay.
And finally, the main event for the undisputed WWE Championship, the champion Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa.
And I think it's going to be an okay match. I think it's more of the story than being a classic matchup or something that people just want to pay to see because it's a dream match. Solo's not been a top single for that incredibly long. I think this is going to come down to how they get the bloodline involved and what Orton does or doesn't do, that we can get an idea of where they're going from there with Cody and or with some of the top baby faces banding together against the bloodline. I know we just had a 6-man, but these things can go in and out. But Cody is not going to lose the title to Solo. He will retain in some fashion, and they will probably try to continue to move somewhat of Cody's story with the bloodline or Orton or whoever is in the future. They'll move that along. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, that's SummerSlam.
The only match where we know that the fucking champion is not going to lose the title is the only match where the champion shouldn't lose the title to the guy he's wrestling.
Well, SummerSlam, do you think Roman Reigns will be there?
That might be the last of Cody and Solo, because Cody and Solo on its own, I can't see fireworks going off at the finish and the earth moving under our feet unless Roman shows up.
Again, they took out Owens, they took out Orton. Cody's going to have to call someone for backup. We brought up Brock before. I'm not saying Roman's going to be his backup, but Roman at some point has to confront Solo too.
Depending on what they've got going on, this still might be soon for Roman, or depending on what they've got going on for the Rumble or Survivor Series and the Rumble, it might be right about the right time.
Well, we shall find out, but that's WWE SummerSlam. Jim, let's get out of here. We will return shortly on the experience. A lot of things happening. We have SummerSlam coming up. And any closing thoughts or words?
Stay off my porch.
Well, with that, we will get out of here quick. Jim Cornette on Twitter at @TheJimCornette. I'm at @TheGreatBrianLast. Listen to us wherever you find us. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Patreon.com/Cornette for the archive going back to 2013. Cornette's Collectibles. JimCornette.com. We're sponsored by Stephen P. New, 87750 Steve. For Jim Cornette, I'm the Great Brian Last. Tally Tally ho!